on the shore, relentless in the war. The legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. The world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty. Calamity fi hit we any moment, what's a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what dwells behind the curtain. The face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannon could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make me get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising and hearts are compromising. Conditions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest and the righteous in your corners. So run, 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 make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we can't forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we can't forget it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come fi get it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come fi get it. Run for the hills, let the will lead the mind. For living is the thrill with the doubt left behind. Amidst all the wicked, there is beauty to behold. We are fearless and intrepid from the depths of our soul. The hands of the steady cleave the rose from the bone. The sweat of the weary brings us closer to the dawn. The motion of the wheel brings the light to the mind. The align is divine. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling on your daughters and your sons, they come we get it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, come, make we get it. Calling on your daughters and your sons, we come we get it. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come fi get it. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come fi get it.
Ho, 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 ho. Riding the wave, hitching your wagon to the star. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're talking about today. How does one take advantage of technology, new things, in terms of gadgets or modes, and also globalization? Right skills, right opportunities for investment. How does one orient oneself towards the next 20 years with regards to these things in order to take advantage, ladies and gentlemen? So that is the question, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Welcome to the channel. My name is Ike. I am your host. And we got J. Ibrahim in the house. And we're going to answer these simple questions about the next 20 years, ladies and gentlemen. Let me see what is going on here in. Shout out to all the super chatters. Let me go ahead and I believe Mr. Eisen Sama already. Let me highlight that. Thank you very much for the 5. Thank you very much. And I think my man Snuggles the set of questions that we'll be addressing today are rather simple. What are the right jobs, right skills, right ways to augment your business in order to take advantage of, right ways of forecasting, perhaps things to avoid or being a step ahead of your competitors with regards to the next 20 years. Changes in technology, again, being new things, let's say, generally speaking, and also changes in globalization, the spreading of the things. On the road again, but we got Snuggles here as well. Shout out to Wallace in the house. Shout out to Nicer Shows in the house. So, let's get right to it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get right to it. J. Ibrahim, can we go ahead and test your microphone, sir?
Hello.
I think I hear you. So, basically, there are a number of simple parameters, right? A number of simple dimensions, a number of simple axes, if you will, of change. One of which, generally, when we look to the future, is technology. We're like, well, how can we position ourselves? What kinds of skills would be relevant in the future? People keep talking about things such as learn to code, so on and so on and so forth. So, with regards to today's topic, I wanted to look at technology, globalization, and then maybe some other, ways in which our mode of living, either socially or politically, might change and how we can take advantage of it. So, beginning with that, anything generally that stands out in your mind in the technology area, okay? And obviously this includes, the software area, which generally people's minds tend to go to. But within technology, we can go from everywhere from, let's say, blockchain to materials engineering, and so on and so forth. But any big themes technologically before we kind of burrow down a little deeper? Anything in the future? Any particular skills, investments, particular trends and directions? The floor is yours, Mr. J. Ibrahim.
Thank you very much, my good friend. Now, let me ask people on the chat, what are the skills that you are good at and you enjoy? I want to get some ideas so that I can tailor this session to some of you. Just to make myself clear, I want the chat to give me some ideas of some of the things you like to do. This includes your skills, your interests, and something that you would like to learn that you do not know. I want to tailor this so that I can help specific people.
Specific people. Well, specific people in the chat with specific directions they would like to go. Now, would that be restricted to the technology area or anything they would like to learn, as you said? You said anything they would like to learn.
This is an open,
myself, right?
This is open to anything, but of course, technology is the place where the world is going. I already have one response from Miss Tech Not Fancy. Now, you have a math and computer science background. Now, let us begin. Let me read some more. Felicia says, I have engineering degree. My man can code and do math and some physics. He's a smart one. I hope your man is here. Okay. Please read out Snuggles, Ike. You are muted.
Yes, I am muted. Ladies and gentlemen. So, Snuggles, I'm assuming you don't mean the super chat, you mean his question down below. Well, his or her, Snuggles is a mystery. I would like to learn how to stop being a worker and become a producer.
Okay, I think I can begin from here.
All right.
Now, let us begin with Taboo Smash. Taboo. I'm sure you have heard of something called NFT, non-fungible tokens. With your background in web development, creating games, as well as the artistic actions, what this means is that you can take your creativity. The fact that you can play the guitar means you must have an element of creativity. The fact that you have three-dimensional animation means that you might be able to create these NFTs, these non-fungible tokens. Let us describe what they are. The non-fungible tokens are the new way that artists can now sell their products across time and eternity. And some of them have been sold for as much as 6 million. Now, what is an NFT? NFT is based on crypto blockchain technology. What this means is if you create a three-dimensional game, even if it is just showing a picture or a video of a room, you create artistic, you create music aspect. Maybe you create a room that when you go touch the wall on the left, it creates one tone. You touch the room on the right, it creates another tone. You can create a musical space three-dimensional game and you can sell it as an NFT. This is art. Art is now becoming more than just the visual through the physical experience. It is now also becoming digital. So if you can create such a thing and make it creative, you can actually make money, a lot of it. Not just that, with NFTs, you can now sell it every time someone else sells it. You can put a base amount that you get always. So if it is 10%, every time it is sold, you receive that 10%. So people cannot steal this art because it has a unique code. Therefore, no one can plagiarize. This is where technology is moving, and this is something you can do right now. And the space is not saturated yet, meaning there's too much potential for you to find your way.
If I may, Mr. Ibrahim, because I believe the idea here is just like there is one Eiffel Tower, right? The Eiffel Tower #1, let's say, right? But there are many imitations of it. There is still the idea of the original Eiffel Tower, right? And it is obviously more valuable than, I don't know, an Eiffel Tower in Vegas or something, right? The idea of originality or uniqueness is key here. Then if you go into the digital world, you have things like MP3s, which I can send you, and you can send the next person, and blah, blah, blah. And who has the original MP3? What's the idea of an original MP3? Get the hell out of here kind of question. Blockchain solves that problem, correct? Just to kind of take that particular first chunk of what you said out. Is that another way to say that the blockchain creates this idea of a unique, like #1, this is the thing, this is your particular art, even though it's digital, right? It is not any other particular copy of it on like an MP3. Is that the idea of the NFT? Or is it, obviously that's the aspect of the blockchain that the NFT utilizes, but now in this digital space, correct?
Yes, the NFT takes exactly as you described. For example, if I design an art, a physical art that I've drawn myself or painted, no one else can steal because A, we can check the exact fingerprint matches using some kind of spectroscopic technique. Like Raman, you can check the fingerprint, you can even date the art. If I sell you a product of art that says it is supposed to be from the year 1400s in the Renaissance, you can check if this is the case based on the materials properties. So you can validate, you can verify, and you can know that this is not a fake. And then also you can know if this is a strange or an incomplete copy. But with digital files, it is hard to do this because not only do they all look the same, they have the same pixels, the structures, and also digital files seem to have function. And music is usually for the fact of listening to the song. People don't usually like Kendrick Lamar's Fear because it is artistic, but because they can enjoy it also, the experience. And the experience is not less because it is a copy, unlike it is for the art. So with NFTs, it creates this region whereby the artist can take something like a song and put their fingerprint inside it. And this is known as the origin. Now the story of the origin is now integrated into the art as well. So others cannot copy. That is now part of the art, like you said with the Eiffel Tower. Or rather, a better example is the Pyramid of Giza and the hundreds of pyramids across Sudan. Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt, but there are copies made usually from the larger pyramid that is older. The designs are copies. So when people want to go to Africa, they want to go to Egypt, where they believe the pyramids originated. Now, whether this is true or not is not relevant. That is where the art and the story lies.
The art and the story. So, and all this with regards to Snuggles' question as well, because you asked that I look at it. And a very relevant question. Shout out to Bijou Noir. Thank you very much for the donations. Thank you very much for the donation. Check out her channel, ladies and gentlemen. If you are not already a subscriber, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, bell button, and do all that good stuff. So yes, with regards to Snuggles' question, there is the idea of now being creative and putting, artifact, product of some kind of output in the creative space, and the whole NFT thing. And obviously also within the blockchain world, there are ways of either investing, let's say, in the tokens themselves, or also perhaps investing in, let's say, the pathways or the infrastructure, if you will, such as, let's say, Coinbase or Kraken, or the gateways that people use to the apps, if you will, that people use to buy cryptocurrencies and so on and so forth and participate in that world, right? And so what would you have to say with regard to this other side, besides the creative side, more on the just seeing where the business side of things could go, right? And investing or creating in that particular area, either in cryptocurrency themselves, investment, or again, infrastructure, pathways, gateways, and so on, kind of the whole economy, if you will, of that.
Okay, because right now we're focusing on something and we're using time in the next 5 years. This is something that you can do now and make money within the next few months, at least 8 months. You can make money. We will be projecting into 20 years after soon. For now, we are limiting ourselves to 5 years, things you can do right now. Now, for NFTs or any cryptocurrency or any crypto information technology, there are some things you need. For example, Ike talked about Coinbase. This is an example of somewhere you can use to store and keep and trade some of these coins. And as one of the brothers, Richard, says, NFTs can also be traded just like Bitcoin. You can own fractional shares. You can then see the increase of some of these NFTs. For example, imagine if our brother here designs this video game whereby it is let's be creative. Let us create this. Inside this video game, there's Snuggles. There is an infamous $5 super chatter inside. Now, if you approach this person, on the left side, he gives you $3. On the right side, he gives you $2. As you can see, that makes $5. You must do this and find different combinations to always make you $5 super chatter. And they only get a point if you have $5. Then you touch the wall, you have some beautiful music playing to say that you have made the game. You play this game against other people in the manosphere. You then trade this and sell it as an NFT. This is now worth 6 million. The rest of us on the chat can now invest and project this share to increase. So this is an example of the shares that you can buy right now when it comes to NFTs. Now, there are also other things. NFTs is a powerful thing. Let us talk about some of the things we can do immediately. Some of you can go and do this right now. There is something called biometric technology, and there's something called NFT. What if you decide to go together with Snuggles and Doug and Miss Techno Fancy and decide to start a company? What you do is this. You take the biometric using radio frequency infrared technology. You mix that technology with NFTs. What will you get? What you will get is this: the ability to scan any product and trace the product across anywhere on the planet. This could then be used as a security, and you start a company for insurance. You will guarantee that you know where the product has landed. You can then use it to insure very expensive products that people can always trace. This will make you billions in the next few years. The technology exists, radio infrared, NFT exists. All you will have to do is merge the two concepts together. It is not too difficult. You can find the investors. This, with the next 5 years, the company that does this fast will start to make moolah and will reign the West African Peninsula like someone we know.
The infrared and the NFT. I see. That is a great idea. That is a good one. That is a good one. Now, with regards to the blockchain technology itself, how can one use it to augment right now or looking forward? What are the possibilities with regards to augmenting one's operations, one's business right now, taking advantage of this blockchain technology, right? Or decentralized finance or smart contracts, all the different applications, if you will, of blockchain, right? How can it be used by, in order to augment one's operations of whatever sort, regardless of whatever one's aims are?
Now, Snuggles, the $5 struggle super chatter. I am joking. Now, let us answer one of Snuggles' questions. He talked about Africa as an example. Africa, like many countries, suffer a lot from corruption. If you want to resolve this problem, there are ways. You can implement crypto technology right now and solve it. Let us talk about this. For example, Snuggles, if you go and create a simple programming system, in the system you use cryptocurrency to code for certain things. Let us discuss this. You can use the NFT technology and you can use the radio frequency technology to do two things. You go and you create your phone, the app. You take a picture of your area. The NFT will be used to record a single unique code that will give you your GPS location. This will then be able to create and solve the issue of postal services in a lot of Africa. You've given every unique person their own unique postal record. Now, let's talk about the corruption. How will this help with corruption? With corruption, what you can do now is go to the system. Make sure that the money and the project, each project is assigned an NFT. The project for building a bridge, the NFT will have a currency uniquely attached to it with the higher ending spending potential and the lower ending spending potential. And this can be decided easily. Then, no matter what currency you use, even if they're buying from Chinese currency to American, there will never be a over threshold. The corruption will be impossible. Each project will be known exactly how much it costs. They will have to make the math make sense. You have solved corruption.
Solving corruption writ large. Okay, so if we take a step back, and a step back for me is looking outward again at the borders of what we have looked at. It is about technology so far, and we're kind of in this space of blockchain and stayed relevant to what people would like to do. And you mentioned the NFTs and also ways in which it could be used with other technologies such as, or combined with other technologies such as infrared and so on and so forth. Now, let's look at the world of atoms then, right? Not the world of bits anymore, as Peter Thiel would say. World of bits versus world of atoms. The world of atoms, anything in the realm of materials in general, because I know there are opportunities in terms of stagnation in certain areas of technology, right? In certain parts of the world, let's say. But in this particular area of materials, any particular opportunities, investments, things to get into, skills that will be particularly useful in this area? Any thoughts on that for the next 20 years or 5 or 2?
Well, this is an interesting part of the conversation. There is a wonder material known as graphene, or its cousin, the carbon nanotube. Now, what makes this material so amazing compared to everything else? It is simply based on carbon, meaning it is just carbon. Carbon is abundant. You can find carbon everywhere. You are carbon. The tree is carbon. Most things in this world is carbon. The ground has carbon. In fact, to be is to be carbon. What does this mean? It means this. Graphene is a structure material that is very thin, a few atomic nanolayers thick. This means you can do wondrous things with this material. An example is this. When I talked about the radio frequency infrared chip, which can be used for tracking devices, you can use graphene. You can print the graphene on any material, on a car, even as an ink tattoo inside of you. You can even use it. In fact, your government will begin to use it very soon. This is not some conspiracy theory. This is technology evolving. Each of you will soon have graphene inside of your bodies printed as a source of information. Your credit card details, your medical records, everything about you. And your government will convince you to take it because guess what? If your child is kidnapped, you can find them. At least you can find they that kidnapped that child very easily. The crime rate will reduce to almost zero. You say that you want to be free right now, but when they come, you will most likely accept this. This is not conspiracy. This is technology. Now, graphene can also be used for building. The material can be compressed and made to use lightweight materials for aeroplanes, for buildings, for technology, for circuits, for electrical circuits. This is the future. If you want to make money, start a company, learn about graphene, learn ways to make it cheaply, or carbon nanotubes, which is even much more things. It can be used for strong carbon fibers, even stronger than steel. Steel changed the world. When the steel industry started, the world was changed. Now, graphene and carbon nanotubes is the future. You must learn about it, start companies about it, be about it, and then go and rule. You will become successful.
Very nice and well put. Now, definitely no jab at you, but on the poetic side there towards the end. However, or in addition, I should say, what do you have to say from a getting of skills slash education perspective? You know, is it chemical engineering or some kind of material science or what you say learn about it, but what in terms of certain levels of expected competency, right? What would you have to say vis-a-vis skills and education in order to take advantage of this particular material which you mentioned, graphene? And then we'll also talk about energy, which is another important aspect of the whole kind of technology space and the world in the atom side of things. But any thoughts about what I just said?
Yes, there are few subjects you can take that you can use to master this technology. Chemistry is one, chemical engineering is another, materials science, materials engineering. All of these subjects can allow you to gain enough understanding. Physical chemistry, chemical physics. Phy- Physics also will allow you to gain some of this knowledge, not the theoretical one. If you want to be Sheldon Cooper, that will not be so useful.
I see. So, in the space of energy, okay, because so far, and people are taking notes. People are actually taking notes, and people are noting in the chat that they are taking notes. Shout out to everybody in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking at the 20-year projection. How to ride certain waves, right? How to ride certain waves in the space of technology, in the space of globalization, which is the spreading of technology, generally speaking. If one were to generalize about these two terms and define them broadly speaking. And in the technology space, we've talked about the blockchain, NFTs, so on and so forth. Looked at material, kind of looked at this graphene thing. It's typically in the carbon area, right? Oh, the carbon nanotubes. Um, but if we move to the energy aspect of things, there are certain let's say, what do you think? Let me ask you this: what do you think about nuclear energy and the concepts of clean nuclear? Third generation or next generation nuclear technology, the kind of thing that Bill Gates, Bill Gates pushes sometimes. Any thoughts about the nuclear direction, nuclear engineering? The Because generally speaking, here's the attitude behind here are the contentions, and here's where I kind of stand. There is an idea of, oh my God, you know, disaster based on disasters that happened in the past that need not be enumerated, uh, about meltdowns and so on and so forth. But there are ways of doing this stuff that that are safer, right? And any thoughts about that in general? I just described the kind of political contentions there, and I think that these things tend to be overregulated, in my opinion, and that there are advancements have been made that will not be allowed or that don't have good PR because people can just wave their hands about a particular some particular disaster based on old technology and so on and so forth. But in the energy area, and let's start specifically with nuclear, what are your thoughts on that?
Before we go there, I just want to reach the end of the graphene. To Felicia, graphene is not inside the pencil, that is graphite. Graphite is the archaic structured version of graphene when it's clamped together and it loses that quantum mechanical principles. Because graphene, because it is only a few atomic layers, can still operate quantum mechanics. This is where time Q, your degree from theoretical physics background, will come in handy. Graphene has the potential for quantum mechanical operations and also for energy. Graphene can be used for third generation solar energy technology. So you can make solar engineering panels from graphene that can get very high efficiencies. What now people are trying to do for those chemical engineers and chemists is find stable ways to make graphene stable, even though it is just a few atomic thicks, and also how to convert waste plastic to carbon nanotubes and graphene. This will make you billions. Billions. Find ways to convert plastic back to graphene and carbon nanotubes. We have the ways. If you can make it better, you will make many, many money. Now, to answer your question, Ike, on nuclear technology, this one, you are correct. It is very contentious. However, nuclear energy is clean in as such as the products are clean. But the waste is dirty. The waste might cause people to develop 20 arms. This is not good. What is needed for this, however?
20 arms? I mean, how about Marvel and DC and the superheroes of all kinds? Anyways, go ahead.
That is only in the storybooks, unfortunately. You will not come out like Superman. You will come out like super disarmed. I shall not make jokes because it might offend some people. Now, the issue with nuclear is the disposition of the waste. If Snuggles and TimeQ develop systems to throw the garbage into space, I don't mean just flying around into space. This is dangerous. If you find safe trips to put them inside another planet like Mars or the moon, you dig holes and you keep it there. That might be acceptable for now. The issue now is the people are afraid because of the Chernobyl incident and other incidents of nuclear technology that happened. The thing with nuclear is that it is actually very clean apart from the waste. Find ways to dispose of this, Snuggles. Take it to the moon, take it to Mars, and dig a hole and leave it there. The half-life of some of these products like uranium, if you reduce the half-life of some of these products, maybe this might help. The thing is, though, the future is going more green because of the socio-political things that is going on in the world. You must get in the right industry, get in graphene, solar technology. Nuclear, this is going to be hard because soon they're going to start putting these things to prevent us from doing it. The issue here is, though, countries like China will begin to do it, so America will always do it. What I'm telling you is this: nuclear will not go away. They'll make it harder, but it will not go away. Oil technology is also safe because guess what? It works when you want it to work. It is not going anywhere soon. Graphene will take at least 20 years to start to make.
Okay, so yeah, and this is something that I wanted to also add. Since you just, it's not an addition, it's like a highlight at this particular juncture, and you can continue and wrap it up. I like how you tie up graphene to the solar and then went into the energy aspect there. But with regards to petroleum engineering, it is rather politically incorrect in certain quarters to look at it as something, especially with regard to the future, right? However, number one, it's very lucrative. Let's just say that first of all, it's actually quite lucrative. And as you said, with the petroleum thing, it works when you want it to work. And I know we're focused on just energy right now, right? But the petroleum itself and all its other byproducts and so on and so forth, the fact that it's everywhere and it's in everything, is and it's some basic stuff that works when you want it to work. That part's not going to go away. So you can still decide, Snuggles, hey, I'm going to go take some petroleum engineering classes and or look in that direction and see what I can get out of this, and then get the capital to be able to fund, because to your original question about being a producer, one thing about the producing thing that I believe in is in getting capital with your skills. Getting capital with your skills, the kinds of problems that you have to solve in order to capitalize quite well in a maximal way on your skills, teach you how to teach you about business, in other words, right? They teach you about the whole process of putting yourself out there, having a customer pivoting, changing, so on and so on and so on. So, um, I just wanted to say that now you were saying that graphene, it will be a future thing, right? Um, is there anything that is like how, or what I'm trying to say is, can you paint the arc in pictorial terms of the story between now and when, oh, everybody knows about graphene and graphene is in everything? Um, like are the first things that are most likely to, or the first applications, if you will, of this? I'm just kind of curious with regards to this particular, because it's the material. It seems to, when I bring up material, you go there, and it seems to also then dovetail into the energy aspect, and it's like useful everywhere. Almost like again, carbon again, because carbon is miraculous. Carbon is crazy like that. So, and any thoughts?
Yes, for graphene, there are some things that is immediately going to be seen. An example is your headphones. There are companies that are already developing next level headphones that are using graphene as some of the materials because of the high speed ability to conduct electricity and heat. These are sound induced to the next level. You can already buy one. In fact, I have one. It costs a lot of money, but it is very good. The experience in your ears is beautiful. You will see this very soon. Graphene tablets, the screen made from graphene technology, using quantum pixel sized nano definitions. You can use them. Some companies are developing graphene to use them as screens that only use energy when you change the pixels, meaning reducing the cost of operation time. This will save companies billions every year. You will see this very soon in the next 7 years. Some companies already exist. They're private companies, but soon they will be open on IPOs, I can suggest. The next you'll see is graphene based glasses like Ike. These glasses will be working to reduce some certain rays and also reflect them. And you can start to even have and view YouTube through your glasses, yet to the person looking at you can see through your eyes. So it does not even look strange. You will see this in about 10 years. So these are just some examples. There are also graphene jackets that use graphene as heat conductors to heat your jackets in winter. You can see this in the next 5 years. Graphene technology for solar energy. This already exists. They're just trying to make it more stable. So these are the things you'll start to see very soon. Graphene clothes, graphene everything. Graphene is the future. Graphene circuits already exist.
Sounded like the end of a political jingle or cereal commercial. Graphene is the future. Graphene. Very, very good there. Very good. I like that. A strong case on the side of graphene. Graphene for the future. Graphene is the future. There should be T-shirts made. I think that'd be nice. The future is graphene. Now, with regards to areas where there is stagnation, because I tend to think, and that's why I made this demarcation between the world of bits and the world of atoms. We talked about the world of bits initially, focusing on the blockchain a little bit, NFTs, so on and so forth, and then going into the world of atoms, talking about materials, and so on. Energy. Now, how about other areas where there is stagnation? And I will argue in the area of medicine, for example, medicine, biotechnology, and so on and so forth. Reason being, for certain, just to put some kind of to paint a stark side of things or one particular reality, is there is a high focus on safety such that the low risk approach towards all kinds of biotechnology and certain medicine advancements in that regard. I'm not just talking about, oh, I'm not talking about big pharma here and any medicine that he wants to shove down your throat. I'm talking about biotechnology in general. And that in the past, we were less risk averse, and this allowed for a lot more freedom in the regulations, if you will, or the regulations that would allow for certain risks to be taken in order for, things to progress at least quicker and be more. In other words, it takes longer now to build a bridge across the bay than it did 50 years ago or something like that, right? And it costs more money. It doesn't make any sense. There are certain kinds of things like that. I'm talking about a particular area. I'm talking about, United States, let's say, and I said the Bay Area, right? There are places that are quite good, or will do it quite quickly. But let me shout out to Dr. Thunder and also to Red Sings the Blues. Check out their channels. Red Sing the Blues gave donations earlier, said donations. And paying respects, Dr. Thunder, make sure that you come back tomorrow because we're going to be getting done with Dr. Thunder. We are going to be talking about overcoming objections in a certain way, like tackling objections, because objections and also rejections are part of the game. And what is the dance of overcoming rejections? And one basic thing is to understand that the reasons why people have rejections are not too many, and they tend to be more emotional than, shall we say, logical. So we shall talk about that, and Dr. Thunder will break things down for us in his way, and I will see what I can add to the conversation. So I was talking about biotechnology, opportunities there. In my opinion, there is stagnation. What are your thoughts, sir?
This one is too big, too grand, but let us surgically start to uncover some of it. Now, let us bring graphene back. Graphene can also be used for tailored delivery of drugs into the body. Graphene nanoparticles can be used to encapsulate the drugs, prevent them from being eaten in the stomach, and can be targeted to specific cells. But let us leave graphene for a while. Let's come back to technology of automation. For example, right now, in the next 6 years, just 6 years, what we will begin to see across the whole world is companies. Snuggles, you must be listening now because this is just for you and Time Q and Young Swift. We'll begin to see companies like Uber making self-driving cars. So if you want to make the money, you must go and invest in companies that are becoming public right now, small companies that are working on automation and delivering of the algorithms to make the self-driving cars safe and the cybersecurity so that these cars cannot be hacked. Do not bother investing in Uber itself, not because it will not make you money, it will, but because the IPOs, this is the intellectual property, when they become public for you to buy, will be low for cybersecurity companies for self-driving cars and automated products because it must be safe. That is the most important thing, safety. So the companies developing safe algorithms that cannot be easily gotten into will make a lot of money. Some of these companies, let us give you some 15 years time span. Quantum computing algorithms that cannot be broken by other computers. This will put you advanced. Then also the actual algorithm to develop the actual self-driving sensor awareness. Or what if you're a minority? What if you're a woman? Or Snuggles? Why don't you go and create a ethical company for the ethics of self-driving cars, because there's going to be a selection pressure for them to prefer certain people. White men will have easier time to not be killed by these machines. So Snuggles, you are a unique individual. Go and make them aware that you exist and make the ethics work for people like you. You will make money. Because this field right now, Google employees have been coming out and been getting kicked out. Do this, you will make money. When it comes to cyborgs, they're also working on human learning artificial intelligence that will recognize the working pattern of a human that is seamless. Work in these fields. Invest in companies that are starting in this field. Self-learning, bioengineering hacks like a cyborg technology. It exists. Now, the stagnation exists because of a lot of the rules, regulations. What I say is go and do it. No one will close your company if you have the patent in your hand. Hide it. You will be released within 2 weeks and given leave to go back to make money.
I like it. The flagrant breaking, or shall we say bending of rules, is always music to my ears. So, the idea of biotechnology, I think that you were able to address that particular question, because it was a loaded question. It was not quite even a question. It was just, oh well, look at this particular area. I think there's stagnation in there. What are your thoughts, right? Now, another area still in this world of atoms here, and we're in the world of technology, which is the world of new things, and how can we write waves? What kinds of skills can we avail ourselves of in order to take advantage, in order to surf the wave, in order to hitch our wagon to the star, ride the coattail, if you will. Now, there is transportation, okay? Rail, tunnels, hyperloop, that kind of stuff. Long since overdue, right? Our flying cars and the Jetsons, and it is the one, by the way, that is, in terms of fantasy, if you will, is quite well defined, or shall I say ubiquitously defined. Like we all want smooth transportation and fantastic transportation. It tends to be a common theme when people imagine the future in movies, so on and so forth. Now, what is that? Where is the flying car? What is stopping the flying car? How about tunnels and hyperloop and other kinds of aspects of that? The technology space in general, and then you can obviously add areas of opportunity where there are problems that are waiting to be solved, so that Snuggles and young Swift can be billionaires.
Your friend Elon Musk believes he can create a thing called Hyperloop. It will not happen. Sorry to say, by him. However, it might happen by Snuggles. Let us explain how. The issue with first, what is a Hyperloop? A Hyperloop is just an environment that allows for a material such as a car to travel at hyperspeeds. You can go from one side of America to the other side in less than half an hour. This is an example of next level, fifth generation transportation. If Ike is inside New York, he can arrive in Texas in the next 30 minutes. This would revolutionize everything. The issue right now is if you want to create such a system, you must have a lot of ability to store pressure, because this system has to have no friction, meaning it must be a vacuum space. But to create a vacuum, you must have a material that can withstand pressure, because the moment some air comes in, especially when you are transporting people, the system will implode because the air will want to come in too fast. So you need materials that are strong enough to withstand that implosion. This can be done if you are a material scientist, mechanical engineer, and go into research. find companies working on such materials, hyper tensile materials that are also lightweight. You do not want them to be heavy because then there's also now the cost of making and repair. Graphene, I said we'll forget about it, so I won't bring it back. But that is some of the limitation. If we can overcome the material that is strong, we will see Hyperloop. So, everyone, go and find it. Also, there's one more other way. There's something called a superconductive material. This means that this material can conduct electricity and or heat without any friction, meaning it is perfectly conductive. This is the most conductive type of material. But the issue to get this material to be like this requires high pressure, high temperature. Now the research is showing that some material can do it in room temperature. And the pressure has been reduced. So if you hook up the superconductive material with a material that is strong to withstand the pressure, you can build a Hyperloop. So Snuggles, TimeQ, go and develop this material or invest in companies that are doing it. For flying cars, this one is simply an issue of energy. That's it. Energy. We already have rockets. We already have jetpacks. In fact, these things already exist. Go to YouTube right now, type in flying car. You will see them. The issue here right now is the energy, the cost of energy production, and also maintenance, and also the ethics, the changes of the law of the air. But these things can be done. So what do we need now? Go and develop nuclear technology or solar technology to reach its peak. Then this will become seamless. We already know how to fly using certain technologies. There are other ways. We can also fly.
Go ahead. We can also fly how?
We can also fly by using things that utilize things like the electromagnetic spectrum. We can we can build hedgeways built of lightweight materials like graphene that are in the sky, and then you put electromagnetic things on the bottom and top, and the car can fly within that space due to the repulsion of the positive and negative charge. So you can be flying within a certain space. This can be done in the next 10 years if people were serious about this.
Yeah, you mentioned the laws of the air and energy. Okay, so you talked about the magnetic one. I would presumably, is that less energy intensive?
It really depends because it is always important on the load. How heavy is the car? How heavy is the material? This will matter the most. And also, how heavy are the people? If they are from Sudan or America, it is a different equation.
Shots fired, as they would say. So, uh, materials engineering, materials engineering, it has come back to. Um, because graphing, and it seems whether we go to transportation, and you talk about the Hyperloop, and you talk about pressure, and also temperature, generally, that forcing in, yes. So, what would you say though? Because in the many, what is your, what from the standpoint of solving the problem? Let's say, forget the law of the or the rules of the air, so on and so forth. And I know you say go figure out materials, and that's how you'll solve. But if you were to just imagine, be a futurist, if you will, without having the details. Okay, you don't have the details, all right. But what do you want to see in terms of transportation or city building now in this particular? Let's look at the city. Let's broaden it out a little bit and talk about other aspects of the city, but vis-a-vis transportation. But obviously, it affects the general architecture of the city. You may say, well, let's bring people closer so that we don't have to move them so far, or something like that. Or you say, let's build triple decker freeways and dig underground and have 12 12 layers deep tunnels, right? And just let's just get in there. Okay. What are your thoughts with regards to urban planning, city planning, transportation, the movement of people, um, in terms of, without having the details and without having these materials, the materials engineering aspect solved yet? How would you envision this future?
Well, let us design this in real time. You want to maximize the ability to pack the density of travelers, in this case, people or cargo. You start by developing an underground system that can take the trains and any other type of machinery like this. This can also be like the hyperloops. You build them underground, quite deep underground, but of course not too deep below the crust, for example. Then you also have the normal car system that we have right now. And on top of that, you also build another system whereby you use long, elongated pillars that will support these systems on the skies. What you want to do is you want to create a system whereby there will be a limit so that you cannot go beyond a certain space and you cannot go below a certain space. That space will be given to an individual. So what will happen is if a person is driving, there will be sensors. These sensors will then be able to automatically detect other flying vehicles in a geometric pattern so that you cannot hit into anybody else below, higher, or next to you. And of course, these cars will have to have a certain flying limit. They cannot go beyond a certain buffer system. For example, you cannot, if you're a size of a car that is 1 meters in in the height, the car cannot go below a certain level, so it cannot meet the next car down. So these can be controlled by sensors. Simple self-driving mechanisms that will prevent anything from colliding with each other. In terms of buildings, they will also have to be built within specific regions. So they cannot be below the buildings, for example. Or if they are, only in areas which do not have high buildings. So then you can have it like elongated in cities like New York or Dubai, where the buildings can be grand. So you create regions of operation. And then on top of that, you have the planes and the jets and the Concords, the super jets. There's a hierarchy of systems. The planes can only operate within a certain region. And then on top of that, the Concords and anything that is faster. This will satisfy majority of the things. Now the issue is the planes when they are now landing. So they will also have to be designated certain landing spaces that are only open to the planes, but not the cars. So the cars will then be limited to some of the operations, not even by time, but by space. Because if it is just by time, there can be mistakes. But space means that it will at least allow the planes to move without causing detrimental effects.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. You spoke of the law of the air, the rules of the air, and obviously we give these faster jet. I mean, because the Concorde, the I always that supersonic flight, if you will. The Concorde is supersonic, correct?
Yes.
So supersonic flight has been there, and for reasons such as sonic boom or cost, energy, certain things, we don't have that. And this transportation thing is something that needs to catch up with the possibilities. It seems like the actual infrastructure and such and so on and so forth needs to catch up with the state of the art in terms of engineering. Not it's not. I don't think it's mainly a scientific problem. And you mentioned certain engineering things. You know, that space up, down, left, right. Putting the car in a little virtual bubble such that that is what you're saying, right? Virtual bubbles such that they never hit each other. Um, That is the idea. But then they have to land, and then you have to separate them by space, because if you separate them just by time, well, then something will happen. And I just see the headlines now about. So that is all, and this materials aspect of the equation. What is the state of, shall we say, materials engineering? Do you know anything about that? Like, is it a thriving field, or a lot of people going into that? I want to perhaps, let's dig into this particular skill aspect, and obviously, one need not go be a materials engineer or go into material sciences, but what are the other, let's say, technician aspects of that, right? What does this kind of, any thoughts about the process, means and methods, factories, technician level kind of stuff, the material science versus chemical engineering, for example, those demarcations? Can you give the people here, what should young Swift go into? Should he go into material science or chemical engineering? Should he do both and get a PhD in being unplugged? Any thoughts in this regard here, drilling into the skill aspect on materials?
Now, when you are doing the best level, the highest level, a PhD or something similar like an ND, which stands for Engineering Doctorate, it does not matter if you became a chemical engineer in your undergraduate or a materials scientist or materials engineer. However, when you're looking to make money and you want to make money with a master's degree, it does matter, because there are certain streams that you most likely belong to. If you want to make graphene, find more effective and easy ways to manufacture graphene from things like waste plastic, or just from other processes, you might actually want to learn organic chemistry, because then that is like your quantum physics for the physicists. It is the highest level of knowing the engineering aspect of the molecules, how to put the molecules together to create new materials. Right now, scientists can now even create cars, molecular cars. Yes, an actual machine at the molecular level that can operate, that you create by putting the carbon chains in a certain sphere that can be controlled by frequencies. So if you want to learn...
Hold on a second there. So
we can't hear you.
Nanotechnology, if you will, right? These small molecular level cars that can drive around and hang around with your blood cells and sell them bread. I don't know, right? By what means is... I've been muted the whole time, haven't I?
No, you said by what means.
Okay, no, because I saw the thing over the thing. Good, excellent. So, by what means do we achieve this small level engineering? How do we create these very tiny, for example, transistors or chips or whatever, or these are 3 atom thick molecular level machines, as you said? What is the technology behind that? Because in there's a lot of technician type stuff and areas to be improved in and of itself, within the operations, or within the means and methods, if you will, of any particular venture, such as nanotechnology, for example, right? So how are you building? Because if I'm just a tinkerer, I'm like, I can't build at a molecular level. How are these people doing it? How are they moving these atoms around, if you will?
Good question. How do they move these materials? To answer Carl's question, Carl said, it is not a sexy field, to be honest, not enough jobs. I did material science with strength materials as part of a mechanical technologies. I think here the issue is expanding your horizons, because you can get into so many different things with that degree. Go and spend 1 year, study masters in engineering in chemical vapor deposition. This is to also answer the next question, Ike. What they can use is systems such as deposition technology. What these deposition technologies can do is they evaporate the material into a vaporous gas. Then they direct these materials using nanopatent. They create nano indentations on the surface using nanorobots. And then this gaseous material will get hit onto the surface, it will stick there, and then they already printed the circuit, almost like a template. You are trying to draw, but you cannot draw. So you take one of those stencils, I forgot the name, and then you cover it. It is a similar process, but using nano machines. Therefore, they control it using the computers. This is a very automated process, but it needs an engineer's mind to do the math and do the geometry correctly. So with this kind of technology, you can go into almost anything. You can go into manufacturing of plastics, into anything, into technician roles, such as managing the machines, or you can go into research, development, and also anything in those things. Carl, you must expand your horizons, because I know many people that can get into this. You can even go into chemical engineering and petrochemical engineering with just 1 year of master's degree with this foundation. Do not close your eyes just because the door was closed when you try to open it. We cannot hear you.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. I am going to. That is rather interesting. You know, the stencil. You throw gas at the stencil, stick 3 atom level or 3 atom thick situations on it. So I want to show a stencil just so that for the satisfaction of and for the repeating of a particular question here. How exactly, again, is the stencil made? Mr. Ibrahim, if you're speaking, I can't hear you.
I have shown you in the back chat. Click on the link. This is an example of the atomic layer deposition. Similar to the stencil, what happens is, as you can see, there's a plasma over here at the bottom. And then you can see, let us start from the beginning. There is a surface. At the surface, you have the things that you want to put on top. So there's something called the precursor. The precursor is a thing that will attach the functional group that you want to go on top of the surface. The precursor will have a similar shape to the functional group. It will attach itself. And then you purge it with a clean gas. The gas will remove anything dirt that is on top. Once you have purged it, you turn it into a plasma. The plasma is like this. Once it's turned into a gas, sorry, the plasma is before the gas. The plasma is it is the metal or whatever material that is in its liquid form. Then it gets turned into a gas and it gets attached. You can literally put an atomic layer on top of this substrate. You can control it. You can then put them on top of each other based on the chemistry of the surface and also on top of the material. This is similar to tensils, but a little bit more complicated. You must understand the exact surface energies of these materials. This is where the engineering comes into play.
Very good. Very, very good. Very good there. Because it's like shall we say, you have physicists, you have theoretical physicists, whom, by the way, you seem to always make sure that you distinguish the, you make a distinction between when you say go study physics for a practical reason versus theoretical physics, right? Um, but if we let's take this wild detour here, okay? Because so far we've been in this technology landscape. We're gonna get into the. Let me see how we doing on time because we seem to. How's everyone doing in the chat? Is this? I can see people going wild there. Shout out again to Young Swift. Shout out to Snuggles. Shout out to Sebastian Ritchie in the house and everyone. Now, how about theoretical physics? In that particular regard and the spaces which that might open for us, right? I don't know, we could say something lame like faster than light travel or something like that. Or any other possibilities that come out of new vistas being opened in the theoretical physics landscape. What are your views in that area there? Anything from whether or not there is stagnation, the cause of this stagnation, is it more of there's no low hanging fruit, or is it more of a just a culture of stagnation and not allowing for innovation and cock blocking and people copying and older professors keeping the younger ones down and an economic battle, a lack of funding, therefore Epstein becomes your funder or whatever. So any idea in this about, or any ideas regarding stagnation or not, the possibilities that it might open onto us, and the general state of the theoretical physics enterprise?
Well, this one is too much to go into, but let us begin. Let us do this. We'll begin by talking about the stagnation in theoretical physics and then go into the possibilities, the probabilities, and then the woo. The woo. Theoretical physics is interesting because it is based on culture. It is a purely cultural phenomenon. We have funding going to things like string theory. This should be called string cheese theory, like the moon is a cheese theory. This is not scientific. It is not going to bring anything, but the money keeps going in because of the culture around it. This is part of the issue. It is established, therefore the money keeps pouring in, yet no outcomes. Now, true, you might get outcomes such as mathematical proofs, which are useful in other fields, but that is a different thing on itself. As a physics situation, it is not even physics. It is basically pure mathematical abstraction. Now, what is the issue? Why is this happening? In physics, we are unfortunately limited by the foundations of the laws of physics as we humans defined it. What this means is that we created a set of abstractions, and by this I mean the axiom, the beginning, the points. Let us talk about what this means. In math, we use things called set theory or group theory. We group things that are similar in one way with other things. The issue is there is contradictions to the ability of us to make meaningful discoveries. Let me ask you, everyone in the chat, and I want you to give me your answer on this one. There is a town where there is only one barber. Everyone in this town must have their hair cut by only this one barber, including the barber. However, the barber cannot cut his own hair. How can the barber not be able to cut his hair, yet be living in a town that everyone's hair must be cut? I want you to explain to me how to resolve this paradox.
Okay, let's hold on a second. And I, very nicely, and I would like to see if I can use a device here, an intuition pump, if you will. So you're basically saying the way the set is defined, which is the town where everyone's hair must get cut, right? that part obviously is key, right? To this is okay. This is the set. There can be in there another rule about the barber in this case that contradicts in a certain way the definition of the set. And before I go too far, is have I gone off track so far?
No, you're correct. Now, Young Swift says if he leaves the town, cuts his hair, and comes back, he won't have to worry about it. This is true. However, the story is set that he is just like a normal person and the rules must be followed, meaning he cannot leave the town, he cannot cut his hair some other place, he must live in this town forever. The rules are set. Wallace says if he is bald, it is solved. Yes, but if he is bald, he is no longer like the other people whose hair grows. Therefore, he is different from them. This changes the story, therefore, changes the paradox, and it is no longer the same abstraction. The barber is only one. Everyone who lives in this town must get their hair cut by this barber, including the barber. How can he then live in this town when he is the only barber and he cannot cut his own hair?
So it's a mathematical thing. The barber example again is used to show, okay, this town is defined by this thing. There's a rule inside the thing which is different from now. With that, what let me ask, was it you were going somewhere with regards to this particular principle, right? Before I cut you off to kind of just say, hey, let's dwell on the first aspects of the explanation here.
This is correct.
You may continue.
Now, why this is important is because humans, we have developed mathematical systems to abstract the notions using this theory. This is an example of set theory. This is how we have defined everything. The numbers you use, the algebraic equations you use, the epsilon equations you use in abstract algebra, and everything else that stems, perhaps that is group theory, but still, the point is, this starts from these sets or these groups we create. Now, the issue here is this. There happens to be a rule that itself operates to most rules apart from this one particular rule, yet it still happens and we can demonstrate it. Now, what this means is when Young Swift said, the barber can leave the town and get his hair cut somewhere else. This is true, but then this means that he's going to another town. Now, in that town, the same rule happens to the other barber. He can now cut the hair of the barber who is in the next town, and the barber from the previous town can continue like this into infinity. This is how you sort of half avoid the paradox. You get the barber to move town. However, when the barber moves town, he is no longer operating to the same rules, which then means there's a contradiction somewhere. Meaning, math cannot abstract forever. You cannot know everything by math alone. This is the issue with theoretical physics. It is built on a foundation that is ultimately limited. We must then treat math like creativity, like music, like
Hold on
dance.
1 second. Before you do the dance, because the words can be, because you say, oh, take math as creativity, because it can then be taken in certain places. But in order to put much structure to it for those whom perhaps are not too familiar, math in a certain sense, okay? So I mentioned the whole thing about, oh, stop it. The woo people might take this to mean, you get the point of what I was doing there first. And then now I'm saying math can show you certain things that you didn't think about. Or the math, if you will, right, forces you to perhaps even learn something in terms of when you're building a model. You're like, oh, well, this particular thing came out of the math, and now I have to contend with it at a conceptual level, right? what is that aspect of math before we go into the limits? Okay, what is it about math in your opinion, or what did I just describe there? That thing whereby I'm building a model, put mathematical abstraction on it, and then the mathematical abstraction then uh, leads me to certain conditions, forces my hand, if you will, things pop out of it, if you will, right? That I then have to contend with and then become quote unquote true empirically later on.
Well, Thomas Anderson is correct. This is an example of Gödel's incompleteness theory. Correct. However, I will take it to a different level. Now, what Mr. Ike has said over here, he's talking about the discovery of mathematical principles. He's talking about the creativity of mathematics. Most of us think math is about addition, subtraction, algebra, calculus. No, this is low level mathematics. Mathematics is just like sitting on your chair, pondering about the existence of color, the imagery that oppresses your mind until you understand the nature of beauty. Math is discovering a set of conditions that are true after every iteration in your mind. This is called a conjecture. However, for it to be a mathematical proof, you must show that across time and space up to infinity, this is completely correct according to the rules.
Hold on one second. So basically, you're saying mathematics is this way, this construct of creating truth by having these conjectures, and for it to be a conjecture, it does have to spread out through infinity in terms of dimensions of numbers, right? Because you say time and space, I get what you mean, right? But I know you mathematicians or whatever, the mathematicians out there, you know, they have infinite dimensions, don't they, right, J. Ibrahim? So, but spreading out that way, and that's for the proof, you have to show that it indeed does do that, and it's not just a statement that is quote unquote logical, makes sense. You can state it within the rules of the game here, but does it actually hold true when we populate it through all the dimensions of space and time, as you said, but just in various, possibly infinite number of dimensions, right?
Exactly. This is why math is different from the other disciplines. Math is the only discipline that seeks to obtain truth. Truth is a property of eternal existence or non existence, meaning truth must be as such regardless of time and space. Physics is not true, but math is true. Let me explain. If you take plutonium and it starts to degrade across time it seeks to be plutonium. It is not true that this is plutonium. It is true that we analyze this to be of a composition that we think is plutonium. It is not actually true. You are not here. That is not true across time and space. That is just a conjecture of the analysis of the spatial integration of the moment that I experience you with things that I can see.
Hold on one second. I like what you did there. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking into the future, and also, by the way, touching up on, shall we say, or because we're talking about the skills, the ways in which to take advantage of these particular trends, to ride the waves, the skills, therefore, and the opportunities, the jobs, the things that could be created in this space of technology, all the way from the world of bits to the world of atoms, as we've been in lately. And we are now looking at this theoretical physics thing. And I would like to say that if we could go back to, let me see, if we could go back to the possibilities, okay? Because I think we did some of the theoretical physics talk and the explanation of math, and I mainly derailed it into particular alleys and corners, just to kind of have some fun, right? But it was a good time with Ibrahim.
Definitely.
All right. So to the practical, possible and probable implications, avenues that could be open, new ways, new vistas that could be open to us from a better understanding of theoretical physics, and perhaps bringing the empirical aspects to bear such that technology can be born and engineering can be done. What are these possibilities, probabilities? And you could go wild. After Snuggles has solved all these great mathematical problems and is able to manifest thoughts out of his head in real time, 4 dimensions, and so on and so forth, and 3D print his imaginations like Green Lantern. But what are these possibilities that might come out of the world of theoretical physics if certain boundaries are, shall we say, pushed or pushed past?
Well, let us resolve this. Now, if you want math to be true across time and space, you want to create it based on geometric patterns. You want to create the sets based on a hierarchy of order, and you want to start with something that is yet a point, yet not a point. You want the first axiom of mathematical principles to be 0 point dimension. It is a dimensionless shape which holds a shape of 0, which is the perfect number of pi, yet not itself a shape. Then everything else can stem from it. Now, let us not dwell in that. Let us talk about the practical implementation of this. It means you start from infinity. If you start from infinity, then you can cover everything. Truth can then be adjusted into this mathematical principle, and there are no contradiction, because at every level there is a direct relationship. Now, what does this mean? If we want to be practical, quantum physics is where we take this mathematical abstraction. Quantum physics is where we will reach artificial intelligence, reaching similar understandings of consciousness like us humans. Because with quantum technology, you are using linear algebra to define spaces. Normal mathematical instruments inside a calculator is what is inside your machine right now. It is based on linear logic. If this, then that. If Ike drinks water, his throat is wet. If his throat is wet, then he sounds good. If he sounds good, he has viewers. This is linear logic. If this, then that. 0, 1, 0, 1. A state of on or off. But with quantum technology, we have the ability to be an in-between state. This brings the ability for machines to be able to make decisions because they can now be in a state of duality. Like a human, you can make a decision or not a decision, or you can think about the decision. This might allow the thinking. Quantum technology is the only way consciousness of machines will occur. And now, IBM is a company that already has access to quantum computers. Everyone in the chat, go and learn linear algebra. You do not need to even know calculus. You can learn it as a standalone. As long as you can do basic algebra and addition and the other things, you can learn linear algebra and learn quantum technology. Learn quantum algorithms, how to write software in quantum technology. You will become rich, successful, and you can play around with all these things and invent things. You might be the one who creates a conscious AI. Maybe Snuggles is this.
Very, very well put. So, into the realm of the knowledge we went and we sought the skills. And linear algebra, it seems to be one, and you're correct, I think, on this, that cuts across so much, in the quantum level. And then just to reiterate what you said, that the basic idea here is that with quantum computing, because of the quantum materials can be in this, it is on or off, it's 0 or 1. That's the typical way in which things tend to go in this world. In the quantum world, you have on and off, or on and off, and you can have more states, and when you can have more states, hence that whole quantum cryptography that you mentioned earlier, right? Is that the idea, the sense that quantum cryptography will be impossible to be broken because of these almost many more states that could be had, including ones which are, shall we say, indecisive states from, the if we're to just use that kind of language, right?
This is correct. Using quantum algorithms, depending on the number of qubits, qubits are the equivalent of bits, but quantum bits, hence the name. Depending on the number of qubits, you can have many states to infinity that you do not have enough time to decode them. So if you work on the next generation cybersecurity, learn quantum algorithms, Snuggles, TimeQ, learn it because this is going to be a lot of money. Security is perhaps the most important thing in this whole system because without it, it is inoperable. So learn quantum cryptography. You will become extremely rich. Or if you are more creative and you want to create things such as computers that can learn like humans, learn it for this sake, for the algorithms of self-learning.
The algorithms of self-learning, which basically is, well, in another way, it's called let's call it solving general intelligence would be the the top, right, the peak of this whole endeavor, and then you have artificial intelligence writ large, learning, machine learning, and this linear algebra, which you mentioned. These things all go hand in hand. And let me, for the purposes of perhaps if we just were to have fun here, linear, right? Could you, because when I like words, and I like to dispel certain perceived lack of opaqueness of mathematics, right? Opaqueness into the mathematical world that a lot of people have, perhaps even fear of mathematics. I like to explain the words because mathematics uses words differently. Sometimes it's not always, when you hear something in math, don't just translate it immediately to English. But linear algebra is one place where actually it does mean linear, right? It is the algebra of lines and vectors, right? So could you explain why indeed linear algebra, explain those words, if you will. Explain yourself, sir. You brought this up.
This is a good question. What is linear algebra? Some people might have the intuition that linear algebra is somewhat like normal algebra, based on writing it on a linear scale. However, it is not linear in relation to the scale, as in you go from point A to point B to point C. That is just algebra in general. What linear algebra is the algebra of lines. In algebra or in math or physics, we have things and a space called Euclidean space. Euclidean space is a particular type of space. We can answer that another time.
So hold on a second. A line meaning, just so that, because in regular parlance this could be confused, a straight line, in other words. And in this Euclidean space, for example, x and y, we know about, everybody knows a line. Y plus x equals b. Maybe we don't have to define it in that way, but we all kind of know a line, and we know the linear thing, as you mentioned, going from point to point to point to point. And then we know exponential increase and different kinds of curves and so on and so forth within that space of, Euclidean, well, within that space of x, y that I just kind of described at least. So a straight line, the algebra of the straight lines, right, in that space is what linear algebra is about, correct?
Well, loosely, this is correct. So let us explain this. Within a Euclidean space, you have different geometries. You have your x. Most of us know the x dimension. Then perpendicular, you have the y. Then cross-sectional, coming out of plane, you have the z dimension. These are the typical 3 dimensions that you have. For example, Ike's microphone is on the z dimension. It is coming towards his face. Ike's shoulders are on the x dimension. It's going on the perpendicular side to it. And then on the y, you have Ike's other thing. Now, that is an example of some of the dimensions. So what does this mean, linear algebra? Well, it means this, right? Imagine you have a straight line on a pen. You have another pen of another equal size. You draw lines on each pen. After 2 inches, you draw a point. After another 3 inches, another point. Another 6 inches, another point. On the second pen, you draw a point on 2 inches, but instead of three, you draw it on four. And instead of six, you draw it on eight. When you put these pens together, they're going to contradict each other. Now, at the second point, the 2 inches, it will directly contradict itself, meaning it will annihilate itself. Then on the other places, what you can do, you do simple math of addition. You can figure out the other relative points the points are from each other. Then you can just put them on an equation. This is a very simple understanding of parts of the linear equations. You can use the position and you can use the phraseology, also the spin, because within Euclidean space, it's not just x, y, and z. There is x point 1, x point minus 1, there is z, there's z to infinity. There is an infinite number of positions these lines can occupy. Depending on the operation that you want, you can be able to notify them. In quantum mechanics, although we say a state can be on or off, or both on and off, actually, it can also be on and off, not on, off, up to infinity within that Euclidean geometry. And we use linear algebra to decipher this sort of abstraction. Time is also exactly. Time can be added to create differences of change.
Indeed, going into that vector space there and then representing it in terms of matrices, being able to do big math, as I like to call it, because it's literally big, right? It's like it's got like grids. That at least that's how I envision it. I know you don't. It's not a grid of numbers, only in my head, right?
Well, some of us use grid of numbers, matrices, to represent these, depending on your preferences. Some of us would rather look at the equation. Some of us who are more visually anointed, we like to look at the shapes. Each way can represent. Matrices are perfect because you can have every iteration of the possibilities within a set of numbers. So you can represent reality up to infinity if you have the space. Of course you don't, but theoretically you can. And it makes it easy that even someone who does not have good spatial awareness can still learn this.
I see, I see, I see, I see. So linear algebra, that is the thing that within the knowledge space, that is the little thread that we can write on. Now, in order to kind of draw this towards a different, draw a different light on this, okay? And since we are talking about that, it seems fitting to talk about the general picture of what we're talking about. Take a step backwards, which for me means going a little outward again and repeating to ourselves ad nauseum that we're talking about riding the waves by looking at certain trends in the space of technology, which is the space of new things, and the space of also globalization, which is the space of spreading of things, the spreading and the copying of things and modes and gadgets, if you will, right? So far in the technology area, went through the world of NFTs, right? The blockchain also, and other things in terms of how to augment one's operations with the blockchain technology, so on and so forth. We went to the world of atoms. We talked about transportation and materials and so on, and energy. And what kept coming over and over again is this graphing thing, this material engineering aspect of things. And then we looked into the just knowledge in and of itself, mathematics, theoretical physics, and so on and so forth, linear algebra, and also as it then dovetails with things such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, if you will, general intelligence perhaps. That's kind of the journey we've taken. Now, I think that it is a good time to segue into this other aspect of things, which is the globalization aspect of things, which is the spreading now of things, right? So let me ask you, if my model makes sense in terms of like globalization meaning the spreading, pick one thing and tell me or answer this question. What is spreading and where is it spreading to? And obviously you have to pick a what and a where that you think is particularly salient to you, similarly to how we started out to the technology aspect by me asking you something that is particularly salient to you. So what is spreading and where? What's being copied and where? And where these opportunities lie? How can one ride this particular trend here, Mr. Ibrahim?
Well, let us take the low-hanging fruit to begin with. If you want to guarantee yourself a job, money, potential, and everything, and this will not lead you into rabbit holes, learn how to program basic programming such as Python, learn mechatronic engineering. Learn those two things, you'll be happy. That is a low-hanging fruit. What I mean is this. What is now slowly spreading is the use of software engineering to code physical objects. This includes your phone. Basically, any technological thing is coded using software. If you can learn how to do both, the interface between the both, you will do fine. What has happened now with globalization is even the child in rural lands of the Afar tribe of Ethiopia have access to the internet. Because of this, they can market their sales.
Why you got to pick on the Alpha tribe?
Well, these are some of our long-standing, we'll go back another time. But if you take some child in the middle of the desert, the world's hottest place for humans to live, in the Afar Mountains, you will find this child who just has access to a computer and internet. This child can make himself $20,000 every half year easily just by learning how to program in Python. That is globalization. This child can buy camels and become the king of that small little village and be happy. Now, what this means is, with globalization, there are a few things that must be done. Some of them is clearing the landscape. If you have a trucking ability, this means managing trucks, for example. You can use them, not just in America, you can export them. Africa has now also have this system of a network of allowing passport travel between any of its countries soon in the next year, meaning you can set up trucking businesses to now start to import, export foods and other products easily. Get some
But
kind
you
of...
mentioned, okay, so you mentioned trucking immediately after you mentioned the clearing of the land, right? So trucking though, yes, but how about the roads?
Right, I think my mind brushed off that one. A lot of places will require clearing of the land, especially in places of South America, although the politics there is strange in some places. So let's use Africa as an example. Clearing out the roads. This is good money. Creating the landscape, making the roads, getting the bids for engineering. If you are a traditional civil or structural mechanical engineer, start your company, win bids, and start clearing roads. Simple as this. China is doing this at incredible rates. Start buying lands in Africa because guess what? The world must grow food. This is the most arable land on the planet. This is not a woo, this is fact. 20 million hectares of land has been sold in the last 20 years. This is a country the size of France has been
Hold on
sold.
1 second. How many acres are in a hectare?
This one is hard for me because I am not from that.
I'm just messing with you because of the but gentlemen, I believe you know what, and the reason I have to bring this up, but obviously for practical reasons, you say. So you said how many million hectares have been sold?
20 million hectares.
Okay, so let me see here. 20 million hectares, and if I were to go over here and I went to all, so they're about 2.5 acres in a hectare, right? So that is over 40 million, really, you know, for the hectare, for the acre people, right? 40 million acres, that is. Just to give some reference there. So yes, you know, you're talking about the clearing of the roads, the creating of the infrastructure. They're building roads, surveying, for example. Just to go, if, for example, you talked about civil engineer, structural engineer, so on and so forth, right? So if we're talking about the technician aspect of this, surveying, because we have some good satellite type of geospatial kind of surveying still, but people still have to go out there, okay, and stake the road and with their little theodolite and make certain kinds of match. Yes, we're moving more and more towards this kind of technology whereby the machine already knows, but in reality, we're far away from there. People still need to go out there with their little fine instruments and be able to survey the land, which basically means make accurate measurements, as to, well, the land is sloping this way and the water will flow this way, and this is exactly 60% grade on this particular plane, and this particular elevation on the building will be this place, blah, 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 blah. Map it all in X, Y, and Z relative to sea level, all that kind of good stuff, right? The surveying game is a huge game in terms of the road business, especially, okay, because people have a whole careers, just going through being the surveyor for this particular railway or train company or so on and so forth. And then you were at the trucking, right? And aspect, and then kind of cut you off there. Again, we're talking about what is moving, right? And where is it moving to, right? So we're talking about copying of things now, spreading of things, right? And you were talking about transportation in the truck. So please carry on.
Yes. And also, why do you think this land is being sold? Food. If you want to make money easily right now, food. Humans' population will continue to grow. So, you want to grow food somewhere. Find arable land, start investing. The price of land will not go down. This is basic math. More humans means less land. You buying up more land equals more money somehow. So, once you set up these trucking companies, you start to utilize Snaggle's company of self-driving. Now, because in a place like Africa, you will need security, physical security. You do not even need the trucker to be the one driving. You just need to pay for the security driver to be inside protecting that vehicle. Now, if you use Snaggle's self-driving cars, which will become the case soon, this will be greatly utilized, especially if Snuggles makes the company to be useful under terrain that is not usual. This will make him dough. Snuggles is a billionaire. Another aspect is culture. People want to experience things from other places, experience them. They want to experience the sight, the smells, and everything else in between. Therefore, if you want to really start going into these areas, start to export cultural artifacts and establish them within your own city. This is how the Chinese did it. And you all know what having a Chinese means. It does not mean eating a Chinese person, but their food. We can't hear you. We can't hear. No sound.
Was I muted?
Yes.
Wow, that was that was a monumental muting. But well, it felt like forever. Hopefully, it wasn't that long. My apologies. Uh, my apologies. So, I was just saying that you talked about this transportation aspect of things in terms of how we move how we take advantage of the spreading of things, how we take advantage of globalization, and so on and so forth in that regard, copying of things, what's moving. Transportation, we talked about the building, and then also the trucking. Many things mentioned there in that regard. Now, in the area of labor, because this is one key aspect, and I tend to preach this thing about, generally speaking, in terms of becoming more multinational in your outlook. This is something that perhaps places around the Mediterranean and Africa / Europe, that particular area, part of it, anyways, are kind of used to in terms of that kind of cross cultural, cross border, a lot of kind of immigration, cultural appropriation, so on and so forth. But right now, through the internet, we don't have to worry too much, even if we're within a massive land space like America, about being able to travel per se. But I always tell people to try to find out a way to open up an international bank account. You also mentioned passports, for example, at some point, something that my ears perked up at when you mentioned, right? So when we were in the very beginnings, and we haven't didn't quite drill it. Anyways, the passport aspect, open up an international bank account aspect, find out what it is like, or what the rules are. But there's a whole passport aspect to this. And anyways, within that, there is the opportunity, obviously, of labor, right? Labor, in terms of if you have any kind of project, you have an idea, you need people to code for you. You need people to do some kind of work. A lot of work can be done remotely, as we can now see, and we will adapt to more and more of certain tasks being understood widely, that is, and people getting that kind of a skill to kind of do it remotely. So how can one take advantage of the spreading of the labor market, if you will, the opening of the labor market? That would be, because globalization is about copying. Now we're talking about copying and spreading of particular skill sets, and then how you, as an employer of people, for whatever reason, right, your account, what for whatever reason you're employing these people, how do you take advantage of the globalization scene?
Well,
For an
let it,
English speaking, and also all those other considerations, which I know you will also take, but anyways.
well, let us begin by answering Snuggles' first question. How can we create a platform whereby people can network and find each other easily? The internet is perfect because here what we want is Snuggles to go out there and create his own system. Now, freelancer.com already exists. We can use this as a platform for anyone who wants to start. But for the sake of everything we're talking about, Snuggles, go and create your own platform. Find some coders in Python or whatever language you like, C++. Create a system which has rating ability and also an ID ability. Each individual ID number will have a NFT attached to it, meaning every ID will only have one iteration. If your ID number is different with the given to the date of birth and also your biometrics, only one NFT. What does this mean? What are we trying to do? We're trying to create a website that will take every individual human can register themselves as a laborer. So let us take trucking. You want people who are safe, people who will not abuse your trucks or sell parts or injure them. You want your trucks to be safe. So what happens is, in Snuggles' website, let us say it is designed just like Freelancer, but made by Snuggles. The NFT means that if Jemima is someone who wants to steal, Jemima will ruin her name in this website. Jemima's review system will be ruined. She will never be able to work again if she stole on purpose. Now, she can work her way back up slowly, but she will have to take a hit that will take a very long time working cheap jobs in order to get back up. Now, the employer cannot also oppress the people because there will be other ways of tracking I will not get into for the sake of the abstraction. This means that blind guy, his wife, and their life with their trucking company can know who to select for the laborer, who works on time, finishes all projects, who is always there at the given moment, who completes tasks and their price. He can now exploit the workers, not in the wrong capitalistic way. This is just a mechanical term to mean he can use the workers and the workers can use him appropriately. He can then set the trucks delivering food from Uganda into Kenya, from Kenya into Tanzania, and from Tanzania into Zimbabwe, and from Zimbabwe across the Suez Canal into America. And to give the vegans their bananas and their avocados and whatever. So you've created a system there whereby it's moving across and he is now working with the right people. You need a passport. You cannot do this without being international. You cannot be represented by your neighborhood. You must be represented by the globe.
A very good rallying cry for the cause of internationalism of individuals, right? That is the idea. It is not like everyone has gone international already in terms of corporate, that kind of a thing. Corporate and people whom have family offices. When you hear family offices in terms of investment or in terms of the world of investment and financial advisors or family offices, you have investment companies, that make large investments, and then you have families that make large investments, and they are under this particular designation, at least in America, called like family offices. But those people can take advantage of certain things, but I think that you should be taking advantage to that which you can in this area of globalization. That is, they've all gone international. You should go international as much as possible as well. Just find out about things such as bank accounts, for foreign bank accounts. Find about things about like what does it take to travel over here. What are the visa requirements? Some places, in other words, just for like fun, right? Can I go here with an e-visa, or does it have to be do I have to send in a passport somewhere, right? It doesn't cost you anything if you're just messing around on your phone. You switch from IG real quick. You go to Google and you say, well, what are the ways of getting a visa into this particular country? Or do I even need a visa as a holder of an American passport? Okay, what can I get with an American passport? Blah, 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 blah. If I put my money over here, what are the interest rates that I get? Kind of, are they different from the interest? Where are the currencies right now and the banks with the highest interest rates for just your regular money for savings and so on and so forth? Blah, 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 blah. So that is the beginning of our kind of of our globalization conversation, or at least the second part of it, which started out with all that trucking and so on and so forth, and then the labor aspect. Okay, in Snuggles has many endeavors now and many things to overcome with nanotechnology, graphene, and also he or she will cure cancer. So how does Snuggles take advantage of the global labor market in order to make this any one of his dreams a reality? Just guide us through one, if you will.
Okay, Snuggles, you want to cure cancer. Or do you want to make the graphene company? Or do you want to build the perfect laborer exchange system? Tell us. I want you to do your favorites. $5 super chat with your answer.
Yes, Snuggles. Here the time goes. Da, 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 da. We are waiting for your $5 super chat. Ba, da, 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 da. Pop, 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 pop. Yes. Do you want to build the graphene company? Right. That's one of the choices. Or do you want to cure cancer? Are there any other choices, Mr. Ibrahim?
You can cure cancer, graphene technology for the supercars, the flying cars, or the trucking company, or the shipping oil investment company, or the quantum computer company, or the mission to Mars and mineral exploration company into asteroid mining technology, or the quantum physics. No, you're too old for that one. Perhaps we'll leave that one. You need to be young, and let's start with the graphene.
Good.
Okay, Snuggles. If you want to start with the graphene first, let us, let us look at the problems. You want to convince investors to be able to go with you into developing this graphene technology. So let us go step by step. First, Snuggles, what you will do is this. You will write a business plan, not a difficult one. It will take you 2 days. You write and you say, I will reduce the carbon emission because I'm going to use waste plastic to make the graphenes. This will be carbon negative, or rather carbon neutral as a whole, and the government will support you. Go to an European country like Germany or somewhere else where this is their mission for the year 2030. They will give you the money and the seed money. You then find the researchers and scientists who exist on LinkedIn, chemical engineers from here, in fact, some of them, and they will start develop ways to dissolve this plastic and then compress it using chemical vapor deposition. That is the method you will use to deposit and create these carbon nanotubes and graphene. And then you start to experiment and find a way to do it cheaply. You then set the company up as now working for delivering radio frequency infrared chips or solar technology. It does not matter which industry you use it for. You work as a third party provider for these things and also as a provider for generally standard issue graphene grades into the companies. You are now a billionaire after just 10 years, probably much less. But maybe Snuggles,
Maybe.
you want to then merge it with other companies. So what happens is you use this graphene and you start to build sensors. These sensors are physical instruments that can be used to detect the environment where blind guy, his wife, and their life have their tracking company. You use it to detect the edge environment and the location, the geolocation of the environment, especially in the dark, because some of these places that they're going to be driving in will not have light all the time. These sensors will help you determine where you are and how to avoid certain things. So now you have a new company, you provided this with sensors.
Excellent. And that's where he wanted to start. And with regards to the specifics of engaging with the global labor market, you said go to LinkedIn, for example. So you're saying that, or are there any special websites like uh, break it down, write the global labor market for what is what is this that series of books with the for idiots? I think it's for idiots, right? Yeah, the global labor market for idiots. Um, any specific sites, any specific approaches towards getting people to work for you globally? Any insights, pitfalls, experience in this regard?
Well, this one is an interesting one. There are some places. Committee says, does Ibrahim have a website or his YouTube channel? I have many websites, but I will not be showing them just yet. Soon in the future, they will be released. John Gregory says the book series is for dummies. Okay, how do you get your market? First, you must decide which countries you want to find your market inside. This is important. It is not easy to do this if you don't already understand market economy. The second thing here is you need to also understand the laws and systems of movement within that realm. So let us pick a country out of interest. This is how we can start to do this. Okay, so Ike, which country do you want us to start with so that we can build this for Snuggles? We can't hear
Yeah,
you.
sorry. Yeah. So we pick a country, any country. Ireland.
Okay, let's do Ireland. Now, let us begin. Ireland has some things called oil, and blind guy, his wife, has trucking knowledge. Okay, so how do we find the people to come and work for him? In Ireland, you can simply search on websites like freelancer.com, and what you do is you put on a bid. You say, I am blind guy, his wife, and their life. You set up the business name. You then put a bid. You say, you're looking for 6 trucking experts who have driven at least 400 kilometers for a job within 5 days. You set the parameters. You then ask for proof of these events. And then people, tens of people, sometimes hundreds, will then bid to win this job. This is very secure. The company will then use the ID to check everyone. And there's a rating system which will prevent you from losing out. These will be people that have had, let's say, 20 ratings, that with a star of 5, meaning 20 times they've completed this task and they've gotten 5 stars. You might choose the one who has 500. You may have to pay more money, but you will be sure that this business will start. This is how you start. Very simple. Once you do this, you then use them as your source of a network. You then put them in the middle of this network puzzle, which I will show you next time. You put their name. Each name has 2 names coming from that network, and those network keeps growing. And then you give them jobs, and then they grow further. Now you transport oil between Ireland and Northern Ireland into the UK, and from Northern Ireland into the rest of the country, all the way down. And then what you do is you register the company within a place which is non-taxable, like Cornwall in the UK. You will not be receiving taxes. And then you make money through this venture. And then you also open a bank account in Switzerland, where you keep their money in different currencies, because you don't want to keep them only in dollars, because right now the dollar keeps moving down. You want a stronger currency like the pound or the euro, but you want to diversify this currency into the euro, some pounds, and some euros. This way you are secure. The money will not go down. In fact, it will be going up.
That is very good. Now, do you have time for another country? How about we do Venezuela, as someone said, right? So, but the point again being, ladies and gentlemen, that people went global a long time ago, and you have to. It is a basic now. It is just like, rudimentary, if you will. It is expected. It is the ground floor. Talk about evening the playing field. This just helps to level it in a certain regard, in the sense that you should go global because or take advantage of this spreading of things, this copying of things, this implementation of things, if you will. If technology, again, because it's an easy kind of rubric for separating, delineating between technology and globalization. If one wants to look from that, have a big picture way of looking at that, technology, economics / geopolitics, which we're going to go into. Okay, so the economics, the technology, economics, geopolitics lens of history and trends. If we are, how about we just hop to the geopolitical, because I think that geopolitical / globalization are not so far off anyway, so we can bleed them together. Well, let me get your consent. Do I have your consent there that we can talk about geopolitical concerns and trends and so on and so forth, and also globalization trends in the same bucket?
Well, if this causes me issues in the future, we know who to put the responsibility at. But yes.
All right. So let's move then into the certain geopolitical trends. Like, for example, if one were to say, well, we're betting, and there's this kind of talk in American type of marketplace analysis, surface level marketplace analysis about, are you bullish on China? Or you're going to bet on China? How much should you bet on China? Ray Dalio says, I'm betting on China, that kind of a thing. However, whether you're there are many bets to be made in many different aspects. You know, you can bet on Angola for one thing and bet for Russia for the other thing, right? So, betting on China, generally speaking, and then betting on China in terms of particulars, right? Ways in which they're, China, and also then we'll talk a little bit about Africa as well. Where is the bet in that sense, in terms of geopolitics, and also some speculations about the general directions of certain geopolitical movements. South China Sea, or do you think they'll get belligerent with Taiwan? How will America react? What's going to happen?
Let us begin this. America and China are brothers and also enemies, and they're tied at the hip, like Jacob and Esau. The reason I say this is that a lot of debt of America is from the Chinese. Yet the Chinese need America in order to sell them the products, like Huawei, for example, until it was began to be prevented from being sold across America. America is Chinese place for them to dump their technology. And America has money from China. They are both needing each other. The true enemy here is Russia. They will be fighting each other, America and China, but in reality, they are both attached at the hip. But let us talk about a few things. Well, is China the one to bet for, or is it America, or is it Japan, Taiwan, or South Korea? Let us talk about this. First, let me read Blind Guy's comment. A lot of banks in the US are registered in the state of Delaware for tax benefits. Between Ike and Ibrahim, you're both saying to us that if we catch up to the globalization that is here already, we win. Correct. You must understand that banking systems are just geopolitical etiquettes. Certain countries have benefits for many people, especially American citizens. Get a bank in Switzerland. Go and pay 5 kronos every month or whatever it costs to keep it there. You can sell and trade in different currencies, and you can avoid certain things. Find a country that is tax-free also. Operate bases from there with a VPN. There are ways to do things that you must be willing to break rules. Do not put them in your name. Put them in your wife's name. It doesn't matter. Do not mix them. These are not illegal. These are somewhat dangerous, of course.
Yes, hold on a second. These are not illegal. These are somewhat dangerous, of course. That sounds like a typical kind of line in some serious movie, or the part where they expect you to laugh at the theater. You get the point. But yes, definitely. Can you make this distinction, if you will, and then you can continue? Just hold where you're going. I know you can do that. You're the evil genius, and help us with this demarcation between, perhaps broadly speaking, rules versus laws, or certain standards of operation versus the need to innovate, meaning that you therefore have to operate on a perhaps parallel or separate in some other dimension set of rules, right? Some points on that, and can continue where you were going with it. Help us to make this distinction here, because I always talk, as you know, about the necessity for breaking rules, and taking certain risks, and so on and so forth.
Well, let us talk about rules and the law. Uber is an example of a country that broke rules. The rule is that there are some taxi federations and companies that can only operate because they have been given the go-ahead by the city planning permissions, and also because it's safe. Now, many things happen inside a taxi, including grape. So this is what the Uber people said. We're going to break this rule. We will enter this transport system by force. They launched their companies, and guess what? The city complained, especially through the taxi companies. But people loved Uber so much that the city decided to allow it. And many countries gave Uber their ability. They broke rules. They were penalized a little bit, but they were able to win it easily. And now they are billions of dollar industry. That is rules. The law is going out there and committing crimes, easily defined crimes such as robbery, going to Ike's house, stealing his microphone with my camel staring at him, threatening to eat his hat. That is robbery.
Okay, Mr. Ibrahim, you were going on in continuation before I stopped you about, we took this detour about rule breaking and then you went into Uber and such. But you were answering questions, you know, within the realm of taking advantage of globalization, geopolitical trends, betting on countries, so on and so forth. So pick up any one of these threads in this tapestry here, either from the geopolitical side or or the side of globalization just writ large, right? The spreading of things, the taking advantage of the spreading, where the markets are going to open. You mentioned before, sorry for being far away from the mic. You mentioned before the land aspect of things. You know, get some land, invest, so on and so forth. I say start by getting the bank account thing going, looking at residencies, going. You know, just asking, what, can I get an e-visa to this country or not? It's just a basic Google search and so on and so forth, just to kind of open up your mind a little bit to the fact that you're not so much that all well one of the these mental boxes, because you described spaces up, down, left, right to contain those flying cars earlier. But we have these kind of conceptual boxes around us, boxes about certain rules, certain spaces, not to go beyond certain blocks, one of which is this kind of international thing. So you are kind of mentally stuck with the institutions and companies and so on and so forth, rules, regulations, patterns, ways of being of a particular box. So if you could pick up one of these threads now on this globalization end of things slash geopolitical end of things, any broad sweeping. Now I'm asking, perhaps, and you could pick up the thread that has to do with what's the name of the study of populations in terms of their age, population shifts, and so on and so forth. You know what I'm talking about? That particular study, that particular. What is it? What is it? What am I talking about, Mr. Ibrahim?
Okay, well,
I think it's a no. It's one of those things where something is stuck in the tip of my tongue, but I don't remember. Uh, it's not genealogy, I know, but demographics, right? That kind of study of demographics writ large, but there's a different word for it, like when it's a big kind of a thing, when you look at population growth over time and trends in that kind of a broad space. But I'm asking you, you can even pick on also on that level in terms of ecological even, right? So you have the ecological aspect, which is just the population and particular parameters that it has, and vis-a-vis survival. You get the point. And then you can look at geopolitical and or this whole kind of globalization thing, and go as grand as possible, because you've been aching for it, because you've been getting flowery at the end of all your statements, like and you are the marketing director of graphene, apparently. Like, graphene is the way, the truth, and well, anyways, any thoughts on that big thing, which the big picture I laid out there, and you go ahead and take it away.
Well, let us talk about this one. It's not demographic. There's another name. I think it's endo something or something like that. Endograph, not sure. But it means something similar to demographic. This word encapsulates the demographic as well as the potential for diseases and population growth and control of urban plannings and all those things. It encapsulates all those things. I believe it begins with endo something. Anyways, let us simp for graphene. I'm joking. Now, the thing is, there's a few things that will happen to the world. The immediate thing is The African population will be the largest population in the world. They will be 40% of the world's population by the year 2100. This will do some great wonders for them. This is simply because of the IQ. They will also have the most number of geniuses as well as stupid people than most of the world. This will mean that they will
100%. Hold on. Let's stop there since we're being juicy. It was like, if I'm doing the edit. What did he say? Yes, so basically statistical distributions and so on and so forth. He said, the population is going to grow, and therefore you're going to have a massive number of geniuses, but also by the same token, because of the distribution of the population, you're going to vis-a-vis this particular parameter, which is genius versus imbecile, if you will. Also, a lot of stupid people, as he said, because that's a particular population distribution. Is it a double? What do you call that kind of a distribution? Mr. Sir, give it a name. Is it a double hunchback camel? Well, I don't know. What is it?
normal distribution. It is just a normie.
It's just a normal distribution but also have. Okay. I got you.
Yes. So within a normal distribution, you have the mean, the average. Most people's IQ is around 100. Then at the furthest end, you have a few people with a high IQ. Then at the lowest end, a few people. So within a normal distribution, with Africa having the most single largest population, they will also have the highest IQ and the lowest IQ.
Oh, I thought you were doing some kind of fat tail distribution or some other kind of thing. Now I understand it. So now I get, you're just talking about a number. Yeah, number. Okay. Magnitude, if you will. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry for derailing you there. I just wanted to see what you were saying. But is it also the case that there are differences in terms of the way the kind shifts in the curves in terms of this particular? Because you brought it up. You brought up the IQ thing. So anything else to say about any particular shift in that regard, other than the fact that you have more numbers, therefore you're gonna have there's gonna be a lot of geniuses born in there versus, and also but you know what I'm saying. So any comments, or are you gonna dodge and slip away? You're gonna slither away?
Well, I won't go too much into the tail distribution that you mentioned earlier, but what I will go into is some basics. With a country or continent like Africa, they have unmet increase of IQ. Let's define this. You are a flower. For example, yes, you, Snuggles. You need light. Please mute. You need light. You need the sun. And also you need water. Once you have these three things, you can grow. Now, for many Africans, the IQ is centered right now as it is because of unmet needs such as nutrition, in things such as iodine. Once they have the nutrition met, and also the environmental factors of abstraction, being exposed to high level ideations, their IQ will start to grow the way the European IQ grew. Right now, the European IQ is going down, their IQ is going up. So, by the fact that their IQ is growing up and also their population is going higher, they will have a much higher distribution of higher IQ relative to the other groups by the year 2100.
Okay, I see. As the needs get met, then how come you're out there sounding like the smartest man in Africa? Is it that you and your crew of AK-47 wielding camel jockeys were able to steal all the good meat and and grow big brains? What's going on with you?
No, we do not steal. I come from a royal family of sultans. So fortunately, I had the right minerals that I needed to grow and develop in my mother's womb. And also, after I was born, I was exposed frequently to books and also audiobooks while I am taking my walks and also going hunting. These things were part of the growth, all of us would have had to compete with each other. The spelling bee, the mathematical fields, the physical abstractions, the philosophical ventures, understanding the nature of reality, as well as the absolute limits of knowledge from a human, as well as a transcendental aspect coming from, we were asking questions like, what is life after heaven? Not, is there heaven or hell? But what is life after heaven? And this is obviously a flowery question in itself. It is not high level at all. But that is the kind of way that we were raised. And as we grew, like the trees of cedar of Lebanon, we grew the way we are. Even though we are in a desert, we still grew strong and flourishing.
I see. I see. So Sebastian is looking for certain practical things here in terms of investment banking, right? In terms of the international banks and so on and so forth. Not particularly my area of expertise. However, I think Audra is the person that I wanted you to speak with, Sebastian. And I got your contact, you hit me up an email in LinkedIn, and I got to get back to you on that startup, looking at people whom actually have done things versus people whom your whole thing is, you're looking for this co-founder type situation. And I said that I have some people on the technical side that, might be interested in talking to. And Audra is one of them. And I got to put you guys in contact, in touch with each other. But in terms of offshore banking, there's certain international bank, or kind of continental banks in Africa and so on and so. But here's what I would do, okay? Because I tend to be more interested on the kind of like the citizenship and the travel aspect of it in a certain way, and then the banking, I tend to just choose whichever the one was most convenient for me to move my stuff around. So in Ghana, it's it's this agricultural bank, the Agricultural Bank of Ghana, AGC or something like that. So no particular reasons in that aspect there. But Mr. Ibrahim, you can continue, on the particular thread that you were on. But also, if you have anything to add to this question about offshore banking, because I would recommend to you, just watch Nomad Capitalist. He's a good kind of spur for okay, I want to check out banks in the country of Georgia, which he seems to kind of like. He pushes Georgia a lot. So looking at the country of Georgia, for example, a good place to start, right? And, they have certain benefits. And there are all these kinds of citizenship by investment, if you will. Put $200,000 into this bank account, and then we give you these privileges as a citizen, blah, 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 or as a, some kind of residence, so on and so forth. Look into that channel. Ibrahim, anything to add vis-a-vis investment banking and so on and so forth, and any other kind of things that we've been kind of touching upon here?
Well, this one depends on the economic/monetary value the individual has. If you are a $5 super chatter, you might not have $200,000, but you might have 5,000. Let us get there, then we'll get to the 200,000 and also to the $1 million. Let's begin with the $5,000. Snuggles or Sebastian, you want to expand some things. First, do a couple things. Get yourself a Cash App. That is step one. Because Cash App now links you to two countries, the UK and America. You already expanded your banking ability in two countries. Then what you can do is get yourself a MasterCard. A MasterCard allows you to operate in various countries using almost like a pseudo bank account system. An example for $5,000 is Revolut. Now, Revolut is a UK company, but what you can do is you can open a company in the UK even if you do not live in the UK. What you can do, let us begin. You set up a company in the UK through Company House. You open up the company. Simple. You do not even need to live there. You pay for a postal service on the UK. Not expensive, just $20 every year or so. However much it costs. What happens is that is where your company will be registered. And then you take a Revolut card. Revolut is an international banking card that allows you to operate within over 30 different currencies. What happens is you now, through your company as a business account, you have now the Revolut card, which is like a pseudo bank, but gives you all the abilities to transfer money and use. You now have your own card that can work in Ghana, Japan, most of Africa, Europe, and America. You can even connect it to PayPal. However, that might be difficult if you're American, maybe connected through a European bank, then whatever you want. That is an example, simple. Set up a company. You can do this in one night, actually 20 minutes. Set up a postal code system for your company. You can pay for it, not expensive. And then order the Revolut card to that address. And then get that card shipped to you in America. It will cost you another $20 or $30. You now have an international banking card that you can connect your name and transfer money towards it. That is very simple. This will work in Ghana. It will work in Japan. It will work in most of the countries in the world through the ATM systems. You now can manage your money and move it. Very simple.
Sebastian, does that make sense? Does that address your concerns? I think that you just highlighted some things about many experiments out there vis-a-vis money, mobile money, ways of transferring money, and Cash App, as you mentioned, get that, connects you to two countries at least. And then you talk about this Revolut card, but it's just a way of solving that problem of ease of transfer. So starting from certain, and concurrently looking at that whole travel aspect too, because you may find, you know what, a trip, next year to one of these countries, right, to spend a week there, might be a worthwhile goal, and I'll just open the account while I'm there, and then I can link it to my Wells Fargo and be able to at least wire money. But then there are other kinds of ways of taking care of that kind of a thing. The idea is both the travel and the utilization through the web of resources such as banking are very key. So we've been going, we've been doing quite an intellectual slug there, Mr. J. Ibrahim. So I hope this has been fun for you. Generally speaking, there are other trends, right? Because we flowed from the, shall we say, technological new things to the globalization aspect of things, which is the spreading of things, which kind of gets you into a certain kind of geopolitical aspects. But also there are aspects that have to do with, you can say, ways in which you envision us changing in terms of our modes of, let's say, modes of transportation, modes of housing, any kind of vision of the future that you see that may perhaps be far-fetched. I'm asking you now to reach deep into the drawer to pull out some kind of, hey, in the future. Now, this may be more than 20 years because I know we said 20 years in the title, but we are now free. 20 years was just a guardrail. We will not be held hostage by the title of the video, ladies and gentlemen. So, what do you say? Ways in which we live will change. In the year 2525, that kind of a thing. So, but first, let me go ahead and recognize the super chat. I'm learning so much in this stream. Thank you. Miss Tech Not Fancy. Tech Not Fancy. So, wish to take that, go broad, go big, go imaginative, how we live, how we commute, how we relate, and you can go as far as possible into the future, or as in whichever dimension you want. Go ahead.
Well, let us finish answering the question. Some of the way I broke things down today is that people can actually just copy, paste some of these things because they're step by step. The final step for the banking question is this: Sebastian, go and open up your company in the UK, like I said, or even America. It doesn't matter. This one is different. You want to have international banking. You want to have a normal bank. Revolut is great, but it is technically not a bank, so you cannot borrow money from them. You can put money there, you can use it to pay and manage money, but it is not a bank. Legally speaking, it has not been granted the relevant monetary finance institutions recognition as a bank. But you still want to do international money. Go and open a post finance bank. This is a Switzerland bank. It is open to foreigners. You can go there and open it right now. You can go to the computer, www.postfinance.ch. Open up your bank in an international way. Just set up a business, say the need for this is for business, international trade. They will not reject you. Let us move on. So, what are the interesting ways that the human generation is about to flourish into? Some of it by transportation, or some of it by enjoyment, experience. What are some of the ways? Okay, let's talk about transportation. Within 55 to 60 years, I see us paying money going to the moon as a holiday. In about 68 years, I see us going into Mars. And in 200 years, I see us doing interplanetary travel across different galaxies using wormholes that have been able to transverse the time-space temporal location from one spatial dimension to the next spatial dimension.
And then we're going to have intergalactic, interdimensional passport, bros?
100%. We will be able to do some things. Let us abstract. Let us do this in real time. How do we travel across space-time in faster than light travel? FTL. Okay, there are many ways, theoretical and so forth and so on. But let us break it down as the layman. What can this happen? Imagine you have a piece of paper, right? This is a representation of the Euclidean space. It's obviously very rough. Now, you have 2 points, one side of the piece of paper and the other side. Let us say that the other side is a different galaxy and the one side is a different galaxy. There is like 2 billion light years, meaning in 2 billion light years, that is like multiply that by 10 to the times 18 or whatever the speed of light is. I forgot the exact number. Humans will never reach there. So what does that mean? Well, this is how we overcome this. We simply fold the space. We fold the space. If we can generate enough energy to fold this space, connect those two dots, we have just overcome space. We are traveling faster than light. Or you could say we're bending space. It doesn't matter. We have now been able to go and party with the aliens in a different galaxy. Not the Mexicans. Joke aside. and not the Igbos either.
Igbo Quenu, yeah. So, no weapon fashioned against the Son of Creator. No power shall threaten the higher levitator. So rising in the morning, that's my motivator. You can never separate or turn your... Yes. Yeah, I know you, J. Ibrahim. Given the... you probably... What is the quality to the particular music? Let's say the music of Sudan. You know what I'm saying. But what is the word? Because I like that kind of stuff. What word represents that kind of wavering? The Ethiopians do it, Arabs do it, that kind of thing. What is that word? Or how would you describe it?
Well, going back to Time Q's question, then I'll come to yours. We can create a wormhole. Yes. I was avoiding this one because with a wormhole, it requires stabilizing energies that will cripple anything that goes through it. The gravitational pull, although they will lie to you, it is only in a black hole. Even in a wormhole, it is too grand for any material that we have created to withstand. So if Snuggles' company of graphene or whatever technology have created this material that we can go inside, which can misdirect the gravitational pull as well as the electromagnetic radiation that we will suffer, we can then safely enter through this material, create a wormhole, stabilize it using some form of energy, and then we can go through it. That will be amazing in the future.
Very, 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 very good, sir. Now answer my question about the character, the quality of voice, singing, blah blah blah. It's not vibrato. It's something else. What is it?
Right. So you're talking about the music experienced in parts of West Africa, Ethiopia, parts of Northeast Africa, and also parts of the Mediterranean regions. Now, Ace Breezy says vibrato. It is an aspect of a type of vibrato, but not quite vibrato. This music is actually a type of vibrato that is ingrained within a specific type of musical melody sequence. It is
Yeah.
actually
So a vibrato will just be a vibration. You're going along whatever pattern, of whatever key you're in, whatever, and you add that vibration to it. It's almost like this. But you're saying that this kind of vibrato is actually a melodic vibrato, right? You have to. It's not just shaking of the voice. It is a particular. You have to go ah. If you don't go ah, you didn't do it right, right? That's what you're saying.
exactly. When you're doing this, I forgot the correct name for it, but we do have the name in my mother tongue. I will find it next time. When you're going up and down, you're going not just by, let us describe a normal vibrato. A normal vibrato is just the vibration of the tonal frequency from in and out, that it seems as though you're making some form of wave, like a wave pattern going up and down through an elliptical curve. The difference is this form of vibration, you are actually singing an independent notes that then you're also doing the up and down elliptical curve within each independent note. Therefore, it actually hums at specific vibrational tones that create such a harmony. Now, if you then sing this using the so-called Spanish or Mediterranean or so-called West Northeast African scales systems, you will be able to reach such sounds whereby you can only get them when you're playing instruments such as the guitar or piano and you're playing jazzy frequencies. You know, when you go into diminished frequencies and then you resolve them. This gives that eerie, sad, melodic tone that cannot be expressed by anything else in human connection. This is what they tend to use to connect them to their ancestors because they have such an inhuman sound that feels so correct, feels so in tune with the vibration. Now, imagine a Sharpie. I just learned this word recently. I would call them permanent markers, but I know you Americans call them Sharpies. Take a Sharpie, start to draw something with that Sharpie with a very high quality microphone. It will injure your sound of your ears because the vibration of the Sharpie and your teeth are vibrating at similar frequencies. This then starts to harm you. It actually feels unbearing sometimes. Or the screeching sound, as you guys say.
Okay. Or is it that the actual vibration of your teeth, in terms of whatever processes are vibrating things are going on, Barbie, and then your teeth are vibrating. I guess I'm saying the same thing. You're talking about the natural frequency of of the teeth, right?
Correct. When you're looking for these things that are horrible is when your teeth and them are almost in the same frequency. See, if they're in the same frequency, there's no problem, but they're almost in the same frequency. So it is just off and it kills you. Now, when you're doing this vibrato, using this music from Northeast and Northwest Africa and parts of the Mediterranean in Spain, these musical frequencies are different completely from it. They are usually at a lower frequency, at least the natural frequency is lower. The other in between does not matter. And you go in, you go out, and it feels more real. You connect with different body parts. That sense that it actually makes you feel something, it means that it's connecting at different body parts. Different parts of your cells have different frequencies. So this is why it makes you feel something. Literally, inside your physiological response, you are caused to want to act.
100% makes a perfect sense. It's similar to Mongolian music, makes one think about the landscape, similarities in the landscape, because I always think about it as desert music, right? And there's something about the desert, perhaps, which will inspire you to put waves on top of waves in terms of your singing and to be
Well,
go.
there's a reason for this. With the music within the Western world, we want to go to complexities using either the number of notes and or the number and quality of words. We are a projection of the language system that we have developed. So in the West, we like to use words. We like to use English, for example. Words and languages that can express things in a melodic way, whereby you like the sound of your own voice, which I might be accused of in this moment. This is also reflected in the music. The artistic aspect is linked within the ability of the orator to express such complex tonal frequencies within the word's vocabulary and the verbiage that is expressed from his tone. This can then be called things like verbiage, or I can't forget the other word, but people can be exposed as just speaking nothing yet saying a lot, as I have in the last 1 minute.
Verbose.
Correct. Now, for countries and regions that have more phonetically sounding languages, it means that their music is more intrinsically based on the melody, the natural melody of the melodic aspect itself, not the words, not the quality of words necessarily, but the feeling that the music itself imposes on you. This is also similar to Chinese music. If you listen to Chinese music, you have the high jam. The high jam, if you listen to it, is a very interesting version of a violin esque instrument. This high jam can express such strong high and low frequencies that forces you to even cry and elucidate such emotions like that from you. It forces you because if you look at Chinese languages, it is very tonal based. Chinese has at least 4 different tones as you express it. Same thing with a lot of these Fulani languages or Hausa, or in Ethiopia, the Amharic languages. They have different ways to sort of express emotion. So, in a way, the reason why it feels like this music from these places have a more immediate connection to it is because it is exactly the case. They do not need words necessarily, or even the words they use do not mean as much as the music itself.
Okay. Why did the desert or the steppes do this to them? In other words, this correlation that I see between the landscape and this kind of thing, uh, is it? Is there? Could you draw up any causal link, or I'm grasping at, am I grasping at straws?
Well, since we finished the banking conversation, you told us that we can go anywhere. So this is going to be pseudo woo, but woo with a purpose. If you look at the desert people, there seems to be a similarity between the expression with the creator. The sun god, for example, when you are in a desert, you tend to see mirages. You tend to see and glorify and behold at the creation, the meaning of existence in the sake for existence sake. This will force you to ponder, sit down, and start to contemplate the natural tones that exist and the emotions that well up, that you cannot express them yourself using things like words.
One
But
hundred percent, 100%, 100%. There are groans and so on and so forth. And just real quick, that's why I said, go outside or try to walk outside, try to travel outside. But that idea of spreading yourself out geographically, in one of the streams I did. But it also goes hand in hand with all these kinds of aspects of globalization, which we mentioned here. But walking outside in order to kind of take in the environment. And there's something about the
you are muted.
I'm muted. the wailing, the wailing aspect of the shimmering sun, the shimmering deserts, the moving and the shifting sands. It makes sense that it'll sound that way. But anyways, go on. Are you muted now?
Well, you are correct. The thing here is also that it is an expression from the wailing. These are the unutterable words that wail from inside. Let us go into Christianity, for example. Christians have a thing, some of them coming from the branch of evangelicalism, called speaking in tongues. Now, let us discuss what this is. Speaking in tongues is exactly that, speaking in tongues. When a person speaks in tongues, they are expressing the immutable, unutterable terms that exist within every human since they are born. Every expression.
They're freestyling.
Exactly. They're freestyling. Rekentereba kantaraba santiriga bayani regaraba ruba.
Roboshoko komoka fatasafatiba.
Reka sentiriba sharagan logun mirglagar mangor londa.
All right then. Take it easy. Continue. Go ahead with your explanation.
Right. So within every human, they have the ability to express these tones. Every language is phonetically imposed, meaning they are building blocks of every language are these tonal expressions. This music, like for example, the music made by those desert dwellers, like the Kabulan, the guys who were living within the Mongolians, those low frequency vibrations that are different from vibratos. And those people, like the Fenfo people, the Fulani people, the songs that they utter, all these people do is spend hours in the desert being in majesty of creation itself. So this is how they express them. Speaking in tongues is just the building blocks of every language. That is why the term phonetics is used. It is just a language building block. To Christians, they use it to express it with their God. A language because they want to express things that terms cannot express themselves. So they use this. They believe that it is something that they can directly communicate with their creator because words are not enough. And if we use that logic, as you can see, this is why the music from these deserts seem to connect more with us because they don't need words. They are connecting. Before humans could use complex language symmetries, like in English, they were using groans. You tell your wife that you want that big piece of meat. She says no. Your son says, ooh, ooh. This is how music developed.
That sounds like a a nice family drama there. Well, go ahead.
Right. So this is probably why they connect more with us. It is because they're stripped from the extras. Sometimes the more simpler you become, sometimes the better it is. If you want the best backflips, monkey double phonetic flips.
Monkey double phonetic flips. Okay. That's the way to go, he says. Get your passport and go to the areas with the All right, ladies and gentlemen, this was a very, very, shall we say, satisfying stream in the sense of satisfying my intellectual curiosity for sure. Thank you to J. Ibrahim in the house. And I hope that was the same for those of you who are in the chat, those who are listening silently, if you will, and everyone here participating in this conversation now and in the future. We definitely thank you for that. And we hope that, like as I said on the super chat, and shout out $20 to Blind Guy, his wife, and their life. I added the and. It just says Blind guy, his wife, their life. I like that one. It flows in a certain way. It's almost like the chorus of a particular song, not a hip hop type of hook, as they say. And I think there was another super chat. There was definitely another super chat over here, and I have to give shout outs for that. Okay, have to give shout outs for that. And let me find it in my little reader over here. Oh, was that the same one that I put up? Yes. Great show. Keep it going. Great show. Keep it going. Thank you very much. Abdul Nasser. Sheikh Abdul Nasser. Thank you very much for the $10 super chat. Thank you very much. So, damn, another one. Orlando Jones. Yes. We are back in full swing out here in the States. Still traveling, as you might be able to tell. But now in the local territory, out there taking money and no prisoners, coming to a YouTube channel near you, ladies and gentlemen. So, any final words, okay? We have had a rather productive conversation in a way that I think that we were able to paint in a large way the quote-unquote landscape, but also show in practical granular steps. And I like the fact that you included the chat in terms of the specifics of what they want to do. Does Snuggles want to cure cancer, or does he want to be the graphene lord, the lord of graphene? Long may he or she reign, Snuggles. Any kind of capstone on this, any grand overtures, to your symphony here?
Be ready to learn. Be ready to evolve. Be ready to be better than the ancestors that you could have had. In Africa, when all our ancestors lived, in Europe, where some of our ancestors lived, we had several issues where we were forced to evolve. The first man to create fire did it even though they were scared. They were eating fruits. He was able to make fire and then eat meat more safely. And then the first man to leave the community because there was no more meat around left and went to Europe. He said, there are no more animals in Africa. I will go to Europe. Without knowing what Europe is, imagine, before maps, your ancestors decided to leave a land they knew to a land they do not yet know. For what? Adventure, glory, manifestation of ideals. So what does this mean? Get a passport, get a book, read, learn linear algebra, just basic math and algebra. You can learn this and you can teach yourself quantum physics. If you want help, I can suggest the books for you to read. Learn how to build websites, get a passport, open a bank, postfinance.ch, Switzerland. Build a company, get a Revolut card from the UK and use this to travel across the whole world, and you can pay for purchases in most countries. Expand your knowledge. Go and understand about dual citizenship or residencies in different environments. Get an e-visa card. Understand how to apply for e-visas. You are powerful. With an American passport, you are the most powerful man or woman on this world. It is not a joke. Go and expand your horizons. Learn how the world works, and you shall obtain great riches, great understanding, great joy from eternal. You shall be successful and you shall thrive. You too shall become a sultan.
You too can become a sultan, just like me, I detect in that, says J. Ibrahim. I come from a family of sultans. I just kind of dropped that there as I was mentioning about the weather and telling you the story about the bridge. But I am from a family of sultans. Did I mention that? Thank you very much. Learn. Rewatch if you have to, or listen to the end part there, and then perhaps retrace back, hyperlink back to other aspects of the conversation where he expanded upon any one of these particular things, whether it be the linear algebra aspect or the learn to code aspect, so on and so forth. So I think that we really did tackle this idea of how to succeed in the next 20 years. In other words, how to look at trends and ride the waves within the landscape of technological changes and also globalization, geopolitics, theoretical physics, whatever it may happen to be. And we managed to do this in a rather practical way. I'm kind of, for me anyways, I'm proud of myself because I didn't get philosophical. We didn't get philosophical. We didn't get metaphysical. I didn't start talking about mastering your subjective consciousness and preaching about, how you need to, and none of that within stuff. I kept it fairly external. I'm kind of proud of myself there. But anyways, thank you very much, J. Ibrahim. Any other last words for your people here? You said you have many websites, but you will not be releasing them. Do you want to explain yourself regarding what that means, or do you want to be coy, secretive, obtuse? Go ahead.
I have some things that I must do, some political things.
Excellent. I have some things that I must do, some political things. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you at once and again. Shout out to Chaos Rain in the house. Shout out to Time. And we're going to say goodbye to J. Ibrahim until next time, okay? Until next time. But meanwhile, make sure you catch me tomorrow with Dr. Thunder. We'll be talking about getting ish done, as we always do. And next, we'll be talking about overcoming objections and rejections. Objections are part of the game. Rejections are also part of the game. How do you overcome them? Well, rejections, basically, you make sure that you have a big pipeline. You make sure that you have a big top of the funnel. You make sure that you have much supply coming in. Make sure you have a big potential so that you can go ahead and move from rejection to rejection if that's the case, right? But objections, understanding that they're not like little puzzles to solve. It's people are objecting mainly because of fear, which is the fear of change or the not wanting to change, generally speaking, the fear that they will not use this thing. Someone is coming to you. They're trying to sell you gym membership. One of the reasons why you may say no or why you're reluctant is because you are not certain that you will use the gym membership. Can I get a 1 in the chat if that particular kind of objection towards whatever someone is offering you makes sense? We have objections, generally speaking, number one, which can be said for everybody, that have to do with our unwillingness to change a particular product, service, software, whatever it may be. But it's also this aspect of, I'm not sure that I will use it. I'm not sure that I will keep my end of the bargain. Yes, this particular tool, this particular gym membership, this particular whatever may be excellent, may be great, but will I keep my end of the bargain? And then we have objections about that. If we understand that objections are mainly emotional, then when we are out there making the propositions, trying to influence and sell and persuade, we understand what this whole objection game is, which is that it is more of an emotional thing. It is more, I analogize it by saying it's like a flame, okay, burning away at the candle wax, than more than that, than a lock to open, okay, because people put layers of objection underneath the real emotional reason, right? Why? Maybe they're afraid of spending money. Maybe it's really a money and I'm afraid money thing. Okay. But typically it's within the emotional realm. But rather than tell you that, they'll tell you things like, oh, I have to talk to my wife, or we're not looking at doing that right now, or some other kind of thing like that. And we'll talk about how one tackles this in real time, the possible groups of, shall we say, objections and then rejections and so on and so forth, and how we take care of that tomorrow, me and Dr. Thunder. Dr. Thunder. For our grievance and our sorrow, securing of the mortal, aye, we the people march today for the banishing of Satan, justice and reclamation, aye, we the people march today, ever forward, ever present, we cleanse all the putrescence, aye, we the people march today, uprising and uniting, proclaiming joyful tidings. Many scenes, many times, many faces, many drives, many lines, many races, many goals, many themes, many interests, from the most subtle down to the simplest. Many men have raised many armies, mutual friends of noble monarchies. In due time the nations will boil out, undue privileges will burn out. We abide with the forces of stillness, the only force that will bring us fulfillment. The people fussing and fighting for payroll, the people living their lives like a fable. Know what I'm saying?
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what dwells behind the curtain, the face of evil smirking with their shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make me get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners. Go. Run, 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 make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Run for the hills, let the will lead the mind. For living is the thrill with the doubt left behind. Amidst all the wreckage, there is beauty to behold. Be fearless and intrepid from the depths of our soul. The hands of the steady cleave the rose from the bone. The sweat of the weary brings us close to the dawn. The motion of the wheel brings the light to the mind. Be aligned, it's divine. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling on your daughters and your sons, they come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, come, make we get it. Calling on your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come.
I travel by night and I travel by day. I feel the breeze, I feel the call, and I see the gravel and the grass by the way. I hear birds and they're mating call. The toll on the road is a small price to pay, small price to pay for the saving of the race. And so I say, aye. People, what you waiting for? Take one and leave one and take it to go. Make a decision and get on the road.
Open your vision for the sun to shine on. Bamboo and acorn and a letter I wrote, big ones and small ones and a pipe for a toe. The rhythms of time is the horse I ride on. I travel by night and I travel by day. Feel the breeze, I feel the call, and I see the gravel and the grass by the way. I hear birds and their mating call. The toll on the road is a small price to pay, small price to pay for the saving of the race. And so I say, aye, 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 aye. People, what you waiting for? Will there be raindrops and rainbows so clear? Perhaps some snow angels, maybe a bear. Anticipation in the heart casts a fog upon the road. How far till the train stop? I wish I was there. I glance at the paper just to be clear. All the coming and the going that will be once was foretold. I travel by night and I travel by day. Feel the breeze, I feel the call, and I see the gravel and the grass by the way. I hear birds and their mating call. The toll on the road is a small price to pay, a small price to pay for the saving of the race. And so I say, aye, 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 aye. People, what you waiting for? Sha-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-ne, sha-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-ne, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-ne, sha-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-ne, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-no. I travel by night and I travel by day. Feel the breeze, I feel the call, and I see the gravel and the grass by the way. I hear birds and their mating call. The toll on the road is a small price to pay, a small price to pay for the saving of the race. And so I say, aye, 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 aye. People, what you waiting for?
You know, and I think we kind of handled that dance rather well. I did my thing. You were doing your. I'm gonna tell you about graphene and go in, do, and I just stayed on my little floaty, airy fairy, as you would say, seeing the crystals as fuzzy little things, but papering over it with flowery language, making it seem like I know more than I do.